Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Milton Conservation Commission. This is our public meeting for July 10th, 2018. As a matter of formality, we only have 2 points to make. One is that we welcome everyone to come forward and speak and ask questions and make comments, but we ask that you introduce yourself because we have a magical tape recorder working here to comply with the open meeting law so that everything is recorded. The other point of formality is that we introduce ourselves.
Judith Darrell Kemp.
My name is John Kiernan,
Arthur Doyle.
Hans Van Lingen.
Steve Ibis, agent.
and we have our quorum. So first on the agenda is informational. That's Wendell Park from Eversource. Hopefully there's somebody from Eversource here.
I am.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah, where would you like me to go?
Use one of the microphones and make yourself comfortable and welcome.
Yes, my name is Chris Gonzalez. I work as an arborist with Eversource Energy. The reason why I'm bringing this list of trees in front of you today is because I'm asking you to cut them down, essentially. We've had a number of complaints from the Wendell Park neighborhood about poor reliability, and I'm doing some research into...
About what liability?
Wendell Park.
About what kind of liability?
No, reliability, not liability.
Oh, reliability. You mean of a power source?
Reliability,
Okay.
yeah.
So you're saying is the trees are interfering with the
Yes.
lots?
Yeah.
Because they're too tall, too overgrown.
Yeah, yeah, we did a bunch of clearing last year, just pruning, but I went through and did a little more extensive over there. I think there's a number of trees that should come down. So I've got 60 trees in total on this list, and then I'm doing two others that are
Actually, one double tree, a dead hemlock.
I saw that.
This is on for informational purposes, and I know it's on the website on the agenda, but since it's not an RDA or a notice of intent, has there been any notification to the neighbors on Wendell Park? We've just finished a very lengthy series of hearings with those folks, and they're pretty active. Have you talked to them, been any neighborhood meetings, or did you give notice about this meeting?
No, I did not. I mean,
I'm not suggesting you had to, because it
Right.
is informational, I understand that. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that a number of them appeared at a series of hearings we had, that some of the issues affected trees. But can you, for the public's benefit, can you walk us through where these 60 trees are? That sounds like an awful lot of trees to take down.
Yeah, I understand completely. Basically, these trees are located in the median strip between the two sides of Wendell Park, directly beneath or within striking distance of Eversource electric lines. So it goes for, I think it's about 10 pole spans extending down from Canton Ave to the end of Wendell Park, almost the end of Wendell Park.
And I know you've done some analysis of the size of the trees. Can you, for the public, because we're being televised, you're on television right now, so would you describe the size of the trees that you would like to take down?
I would say the vast majority of these trees are below 6 inches in diameter at breast height, which would be 4.5 feet from the ground. And so we would consider them to be saplings. I would say about 40 or so.
6 inches as a sapling? Yeah, wow.
I would
6
call it
inches is a pretty big sapling.
Pole-sized tree is a 6-inch, right? Pole-sized, that's the common term.
Pole size.
Pole size.
Sapling is not a common size.
Right,
I'm sorry, it's not a common term for 6 inches.
right.
Because, so the vast majority, I mean, do you have an estimate as to how many of the 60 would be 6 inches or below?
Yes, 36.
36. And for the other 24?
I've got 13 that are in the 6-inch to 12-inch size class. 15. I've got 3 that are in the 12 to 18-inch size class, and I've got a few big pine trees that are in poor health. I think 4 of those total.
Size?
Those would be above 24 inches in diameter.
Greater than 24 inches. Wow.
And Mr. Chairman, members, I took a look at every single one of the trees. And it makes sense to me to take them down because of where they are and what they're doing. And that's why I even added a couple. Just
All
to
right,
let you know.
is there an alternative? I mean, we're within, well, some of it's going to be within the Rivers area. We're certainly within the wetlands, 100 feet, given the stream down the middle of Wendell Park. And I'm not suggesting that you have to do an alternatives analysis, but I sure would like to have an alternatives analysis done. Can you prune some of those trees as you've done in the past for the last 50 years or so?
Well, we did prune them about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, and I think that some of these trees are, some of these large pines, you know, there's not really much I can do to prune a pine that's that big that I'm really worried is in decline to the point where I think eventually if it does die, it's going to fall onto the wires. There's not really any amount of pruning that I can do to mitigate that.
You're saying pine, do you mean hemlock? Is that
No,
what-
pines,
Pines.
white
The
pine
big-
trees.
White pine,
Yeah.
Eastern white pine.
Eastern white pines, so.
So you're essentially saying they have aged out?
Yes, well, the pines over the last couple of years have been affected by a fungus.
Or,
Yeah,
oh, fungus too?
yeah, a needle cast fungus, and so these trees are in similar
Disease.
shape.
Would the removal be down to the stump basically, or
Yeah, we would cut it as close to the ground as we can get it with a chainsaw, basically.
is there any stability issues along the stream bank, or?
I don't believe so. You know, it's certainly not my area of expertise, but it wasn't something that I thought would be an issue.
So you're talking about taking down 60 trees on one street
Yep.
in Milton. And we have a replanting ratio of 3 to 1. So if we took down 60 trees, we'd be looking for 180 trees to be replanted someplace. Are you aware of that?
No, I was not aware of that. And that's not something that I would think I would be able to do.
So what would you suggest we do with our policy and procedure? I've been on the commission for a full 26 years, and we've always used that performance standard of 3 to 1. And you're asking us, what, waive it?
Well, I'm saying that these trees are compromised. You know, either they will need to be repeatedly pruned over the years, and essentially they're an eyesore, or I think that they're unhealthy and eventually going to fall over. So I think,
All of them?
yeah,
All 62 trees?
I would fall into those categories that I just said. Yes, either will need to be repeatedly pruned, and so the trees are not going to be healthy because they're growing directly underneath our electrical wires, or are dead, or I think are in poor health and eventually will fall over.
And some of them are Norway maples.
And there's a number of invasive species too. Yeah.
But that's interesting, but I would contend that if your utility took down every tree in Milton that was risking wires overhead, we'd be losing half the trees in town. So that's not quite good enough. You know, particularly on one street, for people to see you coming in there and taking down 60 trees, it's just not going to sell. It certainly wouldn't get by me. We'd have to have some sort of a plan to replant on that street some substantial trees or something. I mean, you're a major utility. Sometimes we have a little wiggle room and it's a homeowner and, you know, it's economically really stressful for them. We've had lots of consideration, but I wouldn't give it to you per se. So I think we'd have to have a plan in place.
Well, I agree. I think we need a replenishment plan. We need a site walk. The neighborhood, as you said, it has to be notified, and the right paperwork has to be filed for the Conservation Commission because of the brook.
Right. And I know the utilities get a pass in some areas.
They get a good sized pass under the regulations, frankly, under the state regulations. Let me stop there.
Good. They don't get a free pass under the town bylaw.
Right.
Right.
Which
So
would warrant the filing.
What's that?
Which would warrant the
The
filing.
filing, all right, so I think, Hans, you may want to weigh in on this as to whether or not you think there's a notice of intent would be appropriate for this.
I think given the condition of the trees, you know, the mixed species type, I think it does warrant notice of intent under the local bylaw. I agree that it's exempt work under the state Wetland Protection Act, but yeah, I do agree on that, in that case.
And we need some kind of a landscape plan. One of the issues that came up in our previous, and these are recent, this is recent history I'm giving you, but we've had a number of hearings on Wendell Park dealing with tree boxes that are designed to help, clean the water that's discharged off of the streets. And one of the issues that was near and dear to the heart of the residents of Wendell Park was that this is parkland. And they repeatedly referred to it as parkland. And I think to come in and just say, we're going to take out 62 trees, of varying sizes up to greater than 24 inches. That's a lot to swallow without a plan in place. Is that something you can do? Maybe, money driven, you have to, put the cards on the table. But from our perspective, we'd want some kind of a, sort of an individualized approach to the trees, because I can't believe that all 62 trees are gonna fall over. If it's
No,
public
and-
safety, we're
and
with you.
Like I said, the majority of these trees are trees that are growing directly underneath our electric wires and will need to be pruned every 4 years and from now until, the trees.
So to put it a little bit in perspective, a little bit better, just for the installation of the tree boxes that John mentioned, they wanted us to go to MIPA to file a ENF because they believed it fell under, what is it, a land swap with Article 97, which we fundamentally disagreed with, but
Right.
at the end of the day, they were pretty adamant about maintaining the character of the area. And so, the concern is that, these are the same abutters, the same, so just want to make sure that we're adequately communicating to them. And
They'd have
running
our
the
heads
necessary
as well as yours on the table.
In thinking about the replenishment plan, is this something that might be phased out over time, depending upon species or condition of individual trees, so that we don't,
Clear cut.
right?
I'm sorry, I guess I don't really understand the question. What is gonna be phased out over time?
Phased over.
Over time.
Phased.
Oh.
Over time.
No. I mean, as far as the replantings?
Yes.
I mean.
Cutting
So
in.
removal and
and replant.
replanting.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential there in Wendell Park. I certainly have no issues doing some replantings there. The 3-to-1 ratio, I think, is not really something I'd be able to do. I'd probably just walk away from this completely, and if that was required of me.
So I think any distinct hazard trees or invasive trees is something we could probably have a discussion on, but higher quality species, I think, is something that we would,
But I think we also have to put it in perspective of the whole town.
yes.
You can look at any street in Milton and say, here's the utility wires, and here are trees beneath that are interfering with the wires, and they get pruned every couple of years, and that's how we deal with it. We don't cut down all those trees that might possibly impact or are currently impacting the wires. So for Wendell Park, for us to take a different approach to it completely and cut down all the trees, I don't see the justification for that. I can
Well,
see
I think
some that
we
are
really-
critical, but not.
I think we really benefit from a site visit on this because I was very conservative, I think, with what I was put on this list and I'm asking to take down. I do not think that when these trees are removed, there's going to be a major difference, honestly, visually.
I would agree.
I agree with
that
you.
one.
I think a site walk is appropriate.
Sidewalk is good.
Do we have anything over the next couple of weeks? We typically do our site walks on Saturday morning. They start at 8 o'clock. Next Saturday?
This coming Saturday, the 14th or the 21st?
It is the 14th, right, okay.
Right, 14th or the 21st?
I'm not available till August 4th on Saturday.
Anybody else that's out? We have to worry about quorum.
I'm not available that day, August 4th. It's the only day I'm not available.
I could also go by and look at the trees. by
21st, I'm
myself.
available. The second date,
I can do either one.
I can do either one, either 10th or, I'm sorry,
The
14th
14th
or
or 21st.
21st. And we do have at least one other site that we want to take a look at,
Yes.
just to remind you.
I can do 21 for sure. I can probably do 14 as well.
But you're on the 21st. You said you could do the 21st.
Yeah, whatever the second date was, the
21st.
21st.
All right, so
Yeah.
three of us can do the 21st. Can you take a spin through there? And
Sure,
take a look?
definitely.
Are they marked at all?
Yes, the trees were all marked with blue flagging wrapped around the trunk.
Okay, so you'll be able to
Sure.
see that. All right, so we have your assent to continue this. It's a public meeting until Saturday, the 21st of July, and we'll meet right at
But
the,
we still need a notice of intent. That is, yeah,
oh, I think so, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So
We
before the
we can work
cycle-
in tandem. You may not
Okay.
be able to put it together at that fast, but, or maybe you can. Do you think you can?
I've never done a notice of intent before. I mean, what does it entail?
It's a form, and you get a DEP number. You file it with the DEP, they give you a number. It's, you know, Steve is probably the best person to ask
I
for the
can help
details
you.
of it.
I've
Fill out
got,
the form, but the problem is locating the trees that they want to cut on a plan might be difficult for the utility company. They would have to employ some, either engineer, surveyor, or somebody to put the locations on a plan, right? That's really what you'd want to see.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that would be the most difficult part of that exercise.
Let me just think out loud.
Sure.
Bob Hannigan, what do you think something like that would cost? It's not a bid, it's just a ballpark.
That could also be GPS.
60-plus trees
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
over,
I mean,
Yes.
obviously, my coworkers do, I have people who work in the environmental area that typically deal with the
They do that.
Conservation Commission, so I can certainly find somebody to help me.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I figured.
all right.
Eversource must have somebody on staff that
I would think so.
I should think so.
Yeah.
you might be able to take GPS locations. Just a suggestion, thinking out loud again.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so.
Got one more question, John. Is there something unique beyond what we heard, which is very important, we thank you for that, about that area that warrants our attention?
Yeah, I think that somebody put a lot of time into planting some really nice plants in there at one point. It's completely overgrown. It's kind of a shame. You know, it's very heavily overgrown with a lot of invasive species, and, you know, somebody loved that area at one point in time.
Are you talking about, Wendell Park has two sections at least, but the one closest to Canton Avenue is pretty open, where there's a lot of grass land on either side of the stream. But as you get down towards Manning Lane, towards the brook, it's more forested. Are you talking about all the way down?
But closer to Canton Ave, I think, was when we saw
Right,
most
you
of the.
said 10 pole lengths, and that's actually just about the end of where we looked at the tree boxes as well.
The last tree box?
Basically, the developed parkland, not the undeveloped area of Wendell Park.
Okay.
So pretty much that last pine, that big pine, is at the end of the cared-for parkland on both sides, right?
Yeah, I'd say.
Yes.
And in all fairness, when we were looking at that site
Right.
for the tree box, twice, we did notice the relationship between the lines
We did.
in the trees.
I agree.
Oh, yes.
So we do understand what you're talking about.
And what is the downside of continuing your pruning every 4 years?
Well, it's not a very easy area to work in, you know, so it's not really all that safe for my guys to be back there. It's, you know, it's not easy place to get equipment into. The other thing is a lot of these trees, even if we take everything off this list that, you know, I'm just putting on here because it's gonna need to be pruned, you know, we still have to deal with the fact that there are trees on here that I think are gonna fall over. And also there's some of the larger trees, which I did not put on this list, that we're probably gonna have to remove some dead limbs and things like that from. But I didn't know that that was necessarily something we needed to speak about specifically. I guess it never really crossed my mind, but, you know, I suppose that's something that would come up as well.
And you didn't say anything about the tree that you're going to take down that has fallen over and is actually leaning on the lines at this moment.
Correct. There was one of the trees that I have on the list here actually uprooted and fell onto, I think it was during the last series of nor'easters, fell onto the one of the electric lines and started burning. And so when my coworkers responded to it, essentially what they do is just take it off our lines, and now it's leaning on all the other stuff, the cable, telephone. So we still have some other issues back there.
Don't be mistaken, if you're doing pruning or maintenance, you don't have to come before us for that. We expect the utility to do pruning and maintenance all the time. You know, cutting off limbs or whatever. This is a huge radical step to take down the trees, you know, leaving stumps. But you can do the pruning and maintenance all the time. We see that on the street going on constantly. So that's a different category.
All right, so, actually, before we move on, are there any questions or comments from members of the public about this Wendell Park neighborhood folks? Seeing none, and with your assent, we'll continue this to a public hearing on July 21st at 8 a.m. on Wendell Park. And why don't we meet at Channing is the cross street, about halfway down. We can meet right at the corner of Channing and Wendell Park. All right? Okay? Perfect.
Excellent.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you then.
All right.
Next on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability at 310 Central Avenue. Hi, good evening and
Good
welcome.
evening. Brooke Monroe from Pine Brook Consulting, and with me is Rob Graham, the property owner.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. We filed a request for determination of applicability, for an addition on the existing house. The work is outside, from Turner's Pond. And Turner's Pond being a pond, there's no 200-foot riverfront. But the work is between, most of it's between the 100 and the 200 foot from the pond. So just to be safe, we filed the request. So we wanted-
And we appreciate that, because a lot of people err on the other side and they don't tell us, so we're very grateful for that. I say this at the risk of sounding like form over substance, because I'm aware of the fact that the river's front does not extend 200 feet from ponds. But I was concerned because when I noticed your notification to abutters, you alerted them that the hearing is held at the Conservation Commission office at 629 Randolph Avenue.
Oh, yeah, actually, I revised that. I realized that after I sent it out, so I speak to somebody, I think I told Steve, but I realized that after I sent them out, so I revised that and the correct location went to the address. Yep.
You did?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes,
Yeah, I did.
do you have that? Because our packet has your old one,
Right.
and that's not proper
Right,
notice.
no, but I have the revised one with me if you want to see it.
Yeah, we need it
Oh,
for
oh, okay.
our records, all right? Can I ask you a question? If you come out of Hinkley Road, so you're looking directly at the parking lot?
Yep.
So you're to the right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the last house until you hit the house that's where the parking lot is?
My house?
Yes.
No.
Is there one between you and the parking lot?
No, we're, I
There's more
bet
than-
there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we're the 5th house.
Oh,
from
that
the
far,
parking
okay.
lot.
All right.
We're the house with the incredibly ugly tin can garage. It's rusting. That we'd like to
It's not gonna
replace.
be there.
I'm confident any of my neighbors would love to see that gone.
All right, Steve, do you now have the notification that went with the,
I do.
all right, and
And
is
it
that?
says 525 Kenton Ave.
Perfect, okay. That,
And we'll put that on the file.
That'll
In fact,
put my-
let me give it to
I
you.
really-
procedural hard to slow
I know, I
down.
thought about that and I was like, I know, I think I did, I figured it out afterwards.
Do you have the folder on this one?
I think I do.
We'll just drop it, here we are, right here. We'll drop it right in the folder, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making that correction.
That's good.
All right, so I agree that it's 100 feet, and this seems to be, you just are clipping the 150 line.
Yeah,
So I don't think that a notice of intent or an RDA is, what are we looking at?
It's an RDA.
This is an RDA,
So
so it looks like a negative determination. But call upon the commissioners to make their guesstimate. This is not sort of a controversial line because it's the edge of water, although I
Right.
see wetland flags along there.
Yeah, I put those along the top of the bank, and then right above that bank is the walking trail that goes around the pond, and then from there is pretty much lawn all the way
Yeah.
up to your house.
And that's correct, I reviewed the flags, and they're in the perfect location.
Okay.
And
We
so-
actually reviewed the flags for the, I know it's too old because it's more
Oh,
than 3 years, but
yeah.
we reviewed the flags. Are these new flags?
Yep.
We reviewed a set of flags when they,
Oh, when they did the trail, maybe?
they did the trail.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And just to let you know, that they don't have to cut any trees or anything.
I don't, I see a negative determination, but I'm open to
I agree.
any questions.
I agree.
Are there any abutters or members of the public that have a comment or a question about this? What we're looking at is our jurisdiction, and unless you're talking about a river, which could be a perennial stream as well as a river, which is a 200-foot jurisdiction. The wetlands and ponds and lakes, it's 100 feet. And this proposed project is outside of that 100 feet by a fairly clearly demarcated line. And as a consequence, I don't believe we have jurisdiction.
If they were closer to, what's the stream?
Pine Tree Brook.
Pine Tree Brook, thank you.
Oh, that comes out of the pond, or down the?
No,
Oh,
it's actually runs south of the pond,
oh, okay.
then we would have jurisdiction.
Right. Now, how far, that's kind of what I was looking for.
Much
How-
further away.
Yes, it is.
But,
Much further than 200 feet.
oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, so typically what we have, we can choose to issue a positive determination, which would suggest jurisdiction, and that would require either a notice of intent to do the proposed project. But if we lack the jurisdiction, then the appropriate response would be a negative determination of applicability, which means they don't have to file a notice of intent. So are there any questions? I'll ask again to the public. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to issue a negative determination on the RDA? Is it- Second?
Moved, second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? You have your negative determination of applicability.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your courtesy and
You're
actually,
welcome. Well, actually, I believe when I first got involved, the architect had come to town hall, and he spoke with somebody, and they said, well, just to be safe, file a request for determination, so.
that's good for us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thanks also to the town official that said that. That's very nice.
Who made that motion?
Nance.
Next on the agenda is notice of intent at 1078 Blue Hill Avenue. Hey, good evening.
Good evening. My name's Jerry Eustaskis. I'm the homeowner.
Hi, good evening. Welcome.
My name is Robert Canada. For Jerry Eustaskis. We're here for a notice of intent for a upgrade septic system. Currently, there's a cesspool in this location. The location is Blue Hill Ave, Dollar Lane is down here, and quite a ways up is
Bradley?
Bradley Road. The resource area I determined was the top of bank of Pine Tree Brook.
Is it
Trout
Pine Tree or
Brook,
Balls?
pardon me, Trout Brook.
Trout Brook.
Trout Brook. The existing lawn extends all the way down to the top of the bank, so the lines here, 25-foot non-disturb zone, 100-foot buffer from the top of the bank, and the 200-foot riverfront area. The perk tests were done and witnessed by Erin Egan from the Board of Health. System is designed, it's under review by Board of Health consultant Paul Brogna, and what we propose is a 1,500 gallon septic tank in this location and 33 recharge units in this location. The The access for the construction will be down the existing shared drive and around the back, and construction will be in this location. There will be no grading changes in this location. It will be a subsurface leaching system. There will be slight grading in this location because the pitch required, the outlet, the invert outlet will have to be raised, and there will be a row of siltation fence along this line, and no activity.
I'm sorry,
will-
Bob. What was that again? That will be along that line? I missed
row-
that.
Row of siltation barrier
Thank you.
along the yellow line here. So access will be in this location.
Good. Thanks.
It's a Title V system. As I said, currently, there's only a cesspool there.
What's the difference between infiltrators? Because you've got 3 rows of 11 infiltrators and a leaching field.
Leaching field typically is just stone, washed stone with pipes, probably every 3 or 4 feet. Then variation of that are trenches that are essentially narrower leaching fields with pipes and stone. The infiltrators are similar to the Cultac. They're plastic rechargers that are 34 inches wide, 14 inches high, and 4 feet long. So the effluent from the house, the solids and liquids flow into the septic tank. The solids are maintained in the septic tank, and the liquids are the only aspect that travels into the leaching system. These are the current type of system that are typically installed nowadays, rather than trenches or leaching fields.
And you've got hand excavate low-rise wall.
Yeah, there's a little landscape wall there that the homeowner had put, and there's they don't want that disturbed, so they had asked that when the installer is installing the sewer line from the outlet of the septic tank to the distribution box, that they hand excavate in that location.
All right.
So they wouldn't just,
What about a staging area for equipment? I don't know how many days this is going to take, but what are your equipment storage and staging plans? We're just trying to keep your equipment out.
right.
Certainly the 100 feet.
Yeah, I mean, you could make a condition that it be stored outside the 100-foot buffer. It would be a little difficult to store it out on 138.
I think. But you think you can do it outside the 100 feet?
Definitely, yes.
And this is an upgrade, so that sounds like a good idea. Any questions from commissioners?
I should tell you that I've seen the location on the top of the bank, and I think it's in the right location.
Okay.
But what does the word frimpture mean? I've never seen frimpture before.
Frimpture method, right?
Yeah,
Frimpture.
Frimpture method
Sounds
is,
like a Scrabble word, I thought, that's not a real word.
you can use that next time, yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
What it is historically, when you did a soil exam and perk tests, you can only do it spring and fall during the wet season. When the Title V came into effect, they included this Frimpter method, which is a formula that
Mike Frimpture.
Mike Frimpter,
I've been
some
out in the field with him.
a soil scientist developed, and it's based on monitoring wells around the Commonwealth that are monitored daily. Actually, I think they're hourly now. So there's a formula that you plug in all the data and adjust the groundwater so you can do tests year-round, and then adjust it to get the maximum groundwater elevation based on the Frimpter formula. And the reason for that is because the bottom of a leaching system must be at least 4 feet above the maximum groundwater. So say if you did it in August, if there was a 3-foot adjustment, then you'd have to maintain the bottom of the leaching system according to that adjustment factor.
Thank you.
something new every day.
Mike Frimter was the USGS geologist who figured out that water was coming underneath the Neponset River from one side to the other and then going back up. It was very interesting.
Really?
Yeah,
Groundwater?
groundwater, groundwater is going underneath the river and then coming back up.
Wow.
Really interesting, yeah, very interesting guy. When we were working on the new Neponset Valley Relief Sewer back in the mid-90s, he and I took a walk down Bremer Road all the way, down and back.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting guy too. Figured out something practical that we could all use, which is
Very helpful.
true scientist.
Any other questions from commissioners? Are there abutters or members of the public that have a question? Seeing none, hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve an order of conditions, and I think the only real special condition we've got is the storage. The sedimentation and erosion control barriers are in
Place,
the
yeah.
design.
I
So-
was just gonna ask one other question. Is there sewer on Blue Hill Avenue?
There is not,
There is
no.
no sewer down there.
Well, in certain areas there is,
But
but
not in-
not here, yeah.
Where's
Not
the
here.
nearest, how far from the nearest connection are you? Very far.
Quite a ways away.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of
What is
places
it,
I can't have there
150
aren't.
or-
I think it's 150.
It's
Is it
like
150 feet?
500.
What's that?
I thought it was like at least 500.
No, it's shorter than that.
We
Yeah.
had one on Canton Avenue, and the issue was it 300 or was
It
it?
was about
Right.
150, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought that's what we ended up
I
with.
heard 300.
300, that might be that,
Yeah.
but it's not within 300 of
If you
here.
look at the GIS, you know, the Milton design, Milton site, and try to find.
Here
the
you
sewer.
have to identify yourself. Peter.
I'm Gerard Yuskauskas, one of the, I'm co-owner of the 1078 Blue Hill property. And if you go on the Milton website, I think the Department of Public Works is a GIS, you get a map of all the infrastructure. And the sewer, there's no sewer lines up here. And I talk to people, I say, you know, I'm in Milton and I have a cesspool. They say, why? Don't you have sewer? And,
Well, I'm glad you're upgrading from the cesspool to this system. That's a real step.
I've been there 28 years, and, you know, I've never had a problem, but I need to upgrade because this is the 21st century, I guess.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for doing that.
Yes.
So is there a motion to issue the order of conditions with the special conditions that we indicated, primarily the storage of equipment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? You're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is number 4, which is 6 Carberry Lane. Good evening.
My name is Rob Carlozone with Brady Consulting. My name is Rob Carlozone from Grady Consulting. We filed a notice of intent with 6 Carberry Lane. I have revised plans,
Okay.
so I have a copy for everybody. Pass it around.
Why don't you keep that, yeah, they're easy to pass.
Yeah, just like that. Yep. Three and one for Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I have, the revised plans may explain this, but I'm thoroughly confused because the letter says that the notice of intent is an addition. On page 2 of 9, the notice of intent is described as a driveway and landscape modification. And I don't know whether or not this is an addition, a septic repair, or a driveway landscape modification. And we've got all 3 of them are noticed in here.
Okay, so it's not a septic repair. There is a small addition inside the 100-foot buffer zone. and there is a driveway modification. There are actually two additions.
right.
One addition is completely outside of the 100-foot buffer. The other one, both additions are shaded in light brown. The smaller addition is inside of the 100-foot buffer, and it's about 65 feet from the closest wetland, the closest edge of the new addition. In terms of the driveway, the client wants to add a driveway circle, just to help for accessibility and turning around.
Do you know the dimensions of that in terms of impervious?
I don't have the calculation figured here. Client is going to repave the driveway entirely and add a turnaround. The turnaround is also outside of the 100-foot buffer. In the original plan, we had a proposed wall. In the revised plan, we're removing that. Instead of the wall, we're just adding proposed shrubs. There's a walkway, a brick walkway leading up to a new front step with a portico. We have silt sock for erosion control. And we also have a proposed driveway apron, which is barely inside the 100-foot buffer, just a portion of it out by the street. We have proposed stockpiling outside of the 100-foot buffer in several different areas. And I think that's about the extent of the work.
All right, I think at some place in your description, you described the stream as a intermittent stream that may be unnecessary. Because we've had all kinds of issues with the farm pond on the Carberry estate and the dam, and we've been up there so many times. We were there before these houses were built. So it may be unnecessary for you to call it an intermittent stream, so we don't get into, because it has a lot of significance to us jurisdictionally, and there's a lot going on in the Carberry estates. So I recommend that you take the designation out.
Okay.
I think we've got enough jurisdiction here anyway, so it's not a significant issue for you, or it shouldn't be anyway. But I think what is that we will need, I don't know what kind of pavers you're using for the circular drive.
Yep.
And whether or not it's impervious or it's pervious.
I think initially the client had wanted to do asphalt. Again, I don't have the calculations prove anything. We could go to a gravel drive if that would be.
Well, there's some very nice blocks, and somebody else is more expert than I am, but.
You don't want to go to gravel is wonderful, but if you're trying to plow or snow blow, it doesn't make any sense unless you want to break your windows with the gravel going up and breaking the windows.
I've done that.
But yes, but there are pavers you can get that actually have grass in between them. So they're pavers, but they're permeable. They're new in the last 5 years, so, you know, you can mow it easily, but usually you don't get much grass at all because you're driving over it. So they're both firm and yet they're permeable, so you don't have regular runoff.
Yeah, otherwise we'd need to know how much water are you gonna collect there on the impervious surface, and where's it gonna go? It's not a huge obstacle. You just tell us and you say, this is the way we're gonna take care of the water. It might be in a Caltech chamber or something. It's not a big deal except for in the planning side of it. So I don't think it's a huge expense item for you. But those permeable pavers are actually pretty good. I don't know what the expense is. I don't know if it's more expensive or less. I assume it's more expensive. Do you know, Steve?
I think they're more expensive.
Yeah. I don't
Labor
know.
alone,
What's that?
labor alone drives it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to set those.
All right, well, if it's impervious, we'd ask for a calculation of how much water is gonna sheet flow there and where's it gonna go.
Okay. Would you be open to doing pervious asphalt? Would that satisfy?
What's pervious asphalt?
So it's a special kind of asphalt.
Previous pavement.
It's a pervious pavement.
Yeah.
Basically allows water to drain through and act as, it's actually, I think, more pervious than existing soil, naturally occurring soil.
Sometimes the clay is pretty tough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't degrade over time eventually?
I mean, the same as,
It has to be maintained, basically it has to be vacuumed. That's really what it has.
My name's Andy Hatcher, I'm the architect. I have used the pervious asphalt before, and actually it was brilliant, it worked great, but it does take maintenance from a homeowner's perspective, so.
What sort of
It's like a
What sort
loofah.
of maintenance does it need?
I'm sorry?
What sort of maintenance does it need?
Basically, you take your leaf blower out there and make sure that it's clear of grass and leaves.
Or is it like stone dust?
No.
It's not.
No,
For all intents and purposes, it looks like pavement.
it looks like pavement. If you were to walk across it, it would feel like pavement. However, it might be slightly more forgiving on your foot.
I believe the Quincy, the, what's the, there's a parking lot in Quincy that's at the YMCA. That's
Oh, really?
actually pervious.
Doesn't have the macadam texture.
Yeah.
But not to get hung up on, we're not telling the client we have to use a certain product. What we really need are calculations from the civil engineer, correct?
If you want
Yes.
to if you want to go with standard pavement, yes. Or, you know. yes.
Standard asphalt.
Yeah.
Something that's pervious.
Yeah. There's all types of pervious pavers.
Options, yes.
You know, the initial plan that we got, that was dated, I guess erroneously, it was dated July 26th of 18. I assume that was a mistake. But it showed a certain amount of new driveway, and now the one you're giving us tonight has quite a bit more. You're continuing to the back of the garage, or?
so there's an existing driveway there now. It's very light, and we wanted to just show where the proposed work is. The existing driveway basically follows, I can probably just show it to you. The existing driveway goes right from here. You can see the dash line behind it.
Oh, and it extends up there.
Right, so this portion is just gonna be repaved to match any of the new work to be done on the driveway.
Okay, so you're decreasing some of the paved areas and then adding more, so we do need that calculation to see what the impervious, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's actually quite a bit more. And you know, calculation-wise, I don't know the elevations well enough, and Hans, you might be able to read them in your sleep, but even though some of this driveway is not in our jurisdiction, or may not be, depending on whether it's an intermittent or perennial, it still could flow, it could impact our jurisdiction. So I think what we need, because I'm looking at the difference here, it's pretty significant in terms of the increase in impervious surface, if it's impervious.
Only John, what he was showing us, you see this outline here? I think that's what he's saying, is currently, is that right? This is currently pavement that he has.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
the outline.
the narrow part right here.
Yeah, just
Right.
that.
But what I'm doing is I'm looking at the difference between
Yeah.
this one, the old one, and the newer one, which extends it all the way back here.
That's true.
So that's a lot more, and if it flows in our direction, we're gonna have that water sitting somewhere. And I don't know, Hans, can you see the elevations? I mean, I can read the numbers, but I'm not sure which way it's
Pretty
flowing. Looks like it's,
flat in that area. 172 is the, 172.
but in back, there's quite a drop.
Yeah, but that's,
Are you looking at if you're looking at the new one?
yeah.
Is this, what, a 20-foot drop?
It actually goes
Oh,
up.
it's more.
It goes
Yeah,
up.
It goes.
Yes, I know,
starts
but
at
it goes up and
202.
back, so it's flowing towards the street.
Right.
Correct.
See, you're
Correct,
starting at
but-
202 and you're ending up at 172.
But your low point is probably,
The low portion, it looked like the low point was to
Might be the
the
street.
left bottom of the existing structure when I went out there. There's an area that's low, it's got some interberry in it.
You're talking about over here?
That's correct. yes.
Right, this stream is coming this way. Carberry Lane flows, it goes uphill.
That's right, from there, that's correct. So the low point was just, let's see, that's just east of the corner of the house, of that corner of the house.
yeah, so it's gonna end up at the bottom of the driveway.
Yes.
And you're at the
is-
second house from the end. Is that this house is on the right-hand side? Third house from the end. So
Third
it's the
house.
Smiths and then 1, 2, and then it's you.
From that end.
Oh, from that end.
Smiths, and then two more, and then us.
Boy, that's a lot of water coming down that driveway. Unless it's pervious.
There aren't any grading lines on the driveway itself. I don't see any grading lines.
That's because it's pretty flat.
Right.
Yeah.
And
They just
so are
wanna
you
show up.
expecting things just to go off to the sides, both sides of the
Yeah.
driveway? Would you put a crown in the middle, is the question?
Yep, we could do that.
I'm just asking, yeah. So half would go to the west, half would go to the east.
Well, maybe, isn't it all
That
going?
sounds gonna go
it's
into
all
the
coming
buffer
towards
zone.
Carberry Lane.
I would
To the north,
encourage the
isn't it?
water to flow towards Carberry,
Yeah.
personally.
Oh, it
I'm not
will.
a
It
Civil
will.
engineer.
Right.
It will.
Gravitational.
You've
Yeah,
got
I
a
mean-
30-foot drop in the backyard.
You have two basins right at the base, right at the end of the driveway, one on either side of the street, so I mean, that's really,
You've got a pond at the end of the road too. It's not indicated here.
yeah, I mean, the stormwater flow, I mean, you want to primarily go to the catch basin, because
There's a
that's where the
pond just
management
about
system is.
Here. This is the
Right.
pond right here. It's not indicated on, I mean, it's not to scale.
Yeah.
Catch basin, catch basin.
This one's no
Where
good.
was-
On this
This
side.
is
Oh, well,
where,
Really.
you know.
You don't,
regardless,
you don't
yeah.
want to have
The
the water
Smiths
have to
right
come
here.
across.
Of course,
to get
yes,
this, so-
but I'm talking about height,
Yeah,
but,
I'm
I
with
mean,
you.
essentially, that's,
Yeah, I agree. Which is an asset.
yeah. I don't think there's.
All right, so can you give us the calculations for the driveway and the sheet flow runoff and what you intend to do with it?
Yep.
And I don't feel a need to do a site visit, but you may. I've been up there over the years a lot. And followed this stream down. But
I don't.
anybody feel a need for a sidewalk?
In this case, I honestly don't. I don't see much of a change, and the change is in a very flat area, so as long as, I mean, I don't see, you know, as long as there isn't an existing problem, which doesn't sound like there is. But, yeah, I mean, that's up to you.
What's the total, no, I don't feel a need for it, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was in the same, had the same thought.
And Steve's been there too.
I have been there as well, and I should also tell you that there's another feature on the site. There's a couple of drainage pipes from the house, is that correct? From the residence itself, maybe off the roof,
I believe so.
that go to the corner toward Carberry Lane. It would be just, let's see, just to the left of the proposed circular drive. There's an area there that looks like it's a ponding area part of the year. Some great winterberry growing there. They're very happy growing, which means that's a wetland indicator plant. It likes wet areas. There's very little else growing. There's no other herbaceous. It's all mulched, very heavily mulched.
But you just described a wetland, though.
Yes.
Bordering, so
It's-
Well,
It's a rain garden,
Yeah.
probably. It was probably built as a rain garden. That's just my guess. I didn't see it built.
Well, if that's,
But that's-
if that's
that's
true,
how it's functioning.
that would change the jurisdiction and include more of the circular component of the drive.
Well, it's a stormwater facility, remember that.
Oh, yeah, but if it's
are you
it's
talking
still,
about it in terms of a landscape feature?
That's
or-
correct.
So,
Yeah, it's a landscape
Winterberry is
feature.
also a landscape plant,
Right.
so
I wouldn't call it.
is it a wetland? I thought you just called it a wetland plant.
it's,
Yeah, it's
It's a
more than
wetland
50% of
indicator- I
the,
said it's a wetland indicator plant.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think that
I
you meant
wouldn't-
to call it a wetland.
Right. I wouldn't call it a wetland.
Okay.
Right.
Mine are,
Are you referring to
water.
the downspouts?
Yes, the downspouts. There are a couple of downspouts that all
Right.
go to the civil area right in here, right?
No, I agree. When you say drainage pipes,
Right.
that can mean a lot of things, but you're referring to
Off the roof.
downspouts.
Drainage pipe off the roof is downspout. Thank you for the term.
I was just gonna say, mine are on the upland area with wetland behind it. And
Throw other
in the
things
wetland,
but
the Winterberry's on, like, little
We need
hooks.
to know. That's
So
They're on the what?
Oh, no.
they're on a higher elevation
Oh,
within the
yeah.
wetland,
Okay,
rather than in the real wetland itself.
okay. All right, any other questions from commissioners? Are there any abutters or members of the public that have a question or a comment? Steve, you looked like you were gonna want to say something.
Yes, the area that's flagged was completely dry with no indication of recent flow. I can tell you that.
And when were you there, Steve?
Last week, late last week. That's all.
We've seen it a lot.
Yes,
Because
I'm
there
sure.
was a dam issue
Yes.
up at the top.
I know.
Okay,
You don't need to.
all right. Sometimes it's not dry.
Understood?
Okay.
And
So,
by dam, he meant like an actual structure.
Yes.
Wasn't the other sentence.
He wasn't using the adjective.
that was
right?
DAM.
Right, wasn't using the adjective.
Correct. Right, the dam on the farmer's pond. All right, so can we continue this so you can resubmit with the calculations and make a decision as to whether or not it's going to be pervious or impervious? All right, and if it's going to be impervious, then you could come up with a design function to take care of that water. All right, you have a question?
Hello, I'm Matthew Hyatt, I'm one of the homeowners.
Oh, great.
My wife Sheila.
Welcome.
I just want to make sure that we don't delay our project too long and make sure there's no misunderstanding. That driveway, 140 feet, that we already have is all asphalt. We already have a turnaround, but when it was built, I told the architect at that time, not this gentleman, that you'd never be able to turn a car around it. So it was terrific for bicycles and little kids, so all the neighborhood kids came and went racing around the circle. We just want to make it a little bigger, so you can actually put a car around it. There is a drainage easement, and we're here because of that drainage easement on the left of our, I guess it would be to the left of the property, which is where we believe you have the jurisdiction 100 feet in. I don't think we're coming in that much. We are willing, if the calculations go the wrong way for us, to put pea stone or something in that circle instead, which we think would be very attractive and also help with drainage.
So
I wanted also for you to know that the addition that we're putting in, that's well within your space. This is just a little pantry that we're going to put in. What's existing there right now is actually some stone steps that used to lead in from a courtyard into our kitchen, which we no longer use. So there's just stone steps sitting there. We're going to build across that, that small area. There's other building or other parts of our house that are further toward the stream than this. This is quite a bit further away, and it's a very small little room that we're going to use as a pantry. So I just want to
And
make
that-
sure.
That makes perfect sense, and I think the design plan shows that within our jurisdiction, the proposed addition is quite small. It says 9.2, is that correct? 9.2 by what?
6.5.
All right, so that we're talking 60 square feet or
So,
something like that. It's
in-
already
In terms of
impervious.
timing, that site visit we're going to be doing on the...
Public meeting.
Yeah, that's a public hearing, so we can actually finalize the decision at that time. Would that,
That's the 21st on a Saturday.
So with,
Can you get the numbers, man? Okay.
and,
so,
yeah, and an understanding of how the driveway is going to be paved, the materials.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
That piece down the 3/4-inch gravel isn't gonna make those bicyclists very happy.
Good news about that is
Is
that
that
most bicyclists are on their way to getting their driver's licenses.
Okay.
And that's actually part of the reason we're gonna have another car on the property, so we gotta find a way
There you
to
go.
put it somewhere. So,
But is that feasible in terms of the timing?
yes, that would be great.
You think so? Okay, 'cause that way we could finalize a decision on the 21st.
That'd be great.
Saturday morning, and we'd probably we kind of have to wait to see where we're going, but if we're at Wendell Park at 8 o'clock, it's not gonna take long.
Half hour.
Half hour, so we'd be at your house by 8:30, 8:45.
Great.
Is that all right?
Sure.
We won't take long, but if you have that, if you can provide it before then, so we actually have it in hand, we can read it before we get there, that would be wonderful.
Yep, absolutely.
Is there a general email that can be sent to you, or does he need to deliver hard copy?
I don't know how it gets delivered to Steve or to Kathy Bowen.
Yeah, Kathy's the best. I'll give you that information.
Okay.
Okay. I've got your email.
Yep.
I'll email it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you
All right,
very much.
any other comments or questions from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, the R sent, we'll continue it until July 21st, Saturday morning at your house.
Thanks, looking forward to it.
Thank you
Thanks very much.
Always good.
Absolutely.
Which one's old? This one's old. This one's a new one. Okay, next on the agenda is notice of intent 75 Hillcroft. Hey, good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
All right.
Let me hand this to Steve first. My name's Mike League, and I'm the homeowner of 75 Hillcroft.
Mike, how'd you give us this picture? This is great.
It was part of a appraisal that they did when they
Oh,
were
no
kind of looking
kidding.
at it, so it was,
Very handy to have.
yeah, just kind of, as you can kind of, we
Yeah.
try to get as much of the wetlands in as possible, but that's kind of where we are.
Good.
Could you, Mike, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I was looking for kind of a footprint to see whether or not you're expanding the footprint. You just heard us talking about impervious surface. That's is important to us. It sounds like, from reading the description, you're not expanding your footprint, you're going out.
We're going straight up.
Right.
You know,
Over the kitchen, correct?
correct, over the kitchen, where that green on the second page is, we did an addition. This is actually my third notice of intent, and
No, I remember.
hopefully my last one, but we're going.
Hold on a second.
Oh, sure, yep, sorry.
We have to change our recorder.
This is what John does on his weekend.
So our original addition was a 20 by 14 addition where we put a kitchen and bathroom, pantry. We are now going above it. And when we did all that work, we thought with the process of going up when our family expanded, so we are putting a master bathroom, bedroom above it.
So on the one that says CP 5.5, which is the third page,
Yep.
what are we looking at?
So we're looking, I'm sorry, that's the second floor. That is just the addition, so the 14 by 4 and the 21 by 6 is the actual kitchen that we're going above. So it's the exact same footprint that we're just going directly above. If you look at maybe CP 5.3, you can see that we're going
Straight up.
straight up in terms of, that is our kitchen, and we're going directly above it.
All right, could your
I think it's
architect...
this little section right here, right? The little section
the
sticks out
peak-
and back.
the peaked
with
roof.
Yeah, the peak
So
roof,
you're just going straight up from that.
We're going straight up.
One story, and you're gonna make it 2 stories.
correct,
No pushing out at all.
correct.
Deck remains the same, et cetera.
Deck remains the same,
Okay.
footprint remains the same, everything.
Could you have your architect give us a drawing that shows that the footprint, you're looking, it's almost like...
I actually have, I have the bid plans that I could email, Kathy, where it shows existing downstairs, and then the new.
It's going up.
Going up above it.
That's the issue for us, because the impervious surface is not going to change.
Correct, yeah, everything's gonna stay the same, the roof, everything, the pitch line, everything's gonna be identical, just going straight up.
All right. Any questions from commissioners? Nope. Are there abutters or members of the public? Yes. Forward, please. Come forward and use the microphone if you would, please. Thank you.
Okay. I live next door to Michael and his wife and his little boy. And we've already talked about this, and this was my concern when they actually did the first edition, before you put the deck on. My view from my house, I'm right next to him, and I have a view of the whole skyline of Boston from my backyard. And also a very nice breeze that comes through the backyard. So my concern is the same as the concern I had when he put the kitchen on, which is, will this obstruct my view of the city of Boston? And also affect the breeze that comes in, particularly during the summer. So I still have the same concern. I was just over there before this, so
Could you give us your name?
Oh, no,
Did
I
I
did
miss that?
not.
Oh, okay.
I did not. I'm Sheila Burke, and I live at 69 Hurlcroft.
Sheila, as you
So
look at
Sheila-
Mike's house, are you on the right?
I'm on the
Or are you
right.
on the left? You're on the right.
No, sorry, on this picture, Sheila.
Oh, wait a minute.
You would be on the left.
Oh, all right, because this is a backwards view. Got it. Yeah, this is my house right here.
Oh, okay.
So I'm on the left from the back. But from the front of the house, I'd be on the right.
I think, one thing we can say is, the breezes change quite a bit depending on the time of year, and we have, the westerlies are like pretty constant, but then we get an east wind sometime if the wind is off the water, so it would sort of change all the time in terms of whether you're getting the nice breezes. You'd still get the wind off the water, it looks like,
Yeah, I've lived there for over 30 years, so
yeah, so-
I know the winds
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah. So in terms of your view,
The view is more of what I'm concerned
Uh-huh.
about. I think that, I agree with you with the winds changing. It's the view that I'm concerned about, and Michael knows about this, we just talked about it, and probably, if looking at this, the view that could be affected is the upper windows on the second floor. But
From your house.
in my house, right, the view is, yeah, I'm the one concerned about the view. He's got a great view also, we both have beautiful views
Yeah,
in our
it's beautiful.
backyard. So it's still a concern, however, I don't want to block him from doing it. I certainly want them to put an addition on, and, I know that house well, because I knew the previous neighbors, and it's a very small house to have two children running around in, right? It is. So I totally agree that they need some additional space upstairs, but I'm the abutter, and I'm the one that has concern. The abutters on the other side are actually out of town, but I'm pretty sure that they weren't concerned. They're way, way over on the right, so their view would not be affected. It's me that would be affected. So I'm just voicing my concern. Again, I
you
don't,
have
that's-
every right to do.
That's fine, and
I also want to put an addition on, so I'm kind of in a situation where, and it should be interesting to see what happens with my view once you do put it up, because I want to move out to the back of my house also. So that's, there's a breezeway
I was
there.
hoping, we sat on our deck today, we were having dinner, and Sheila stopped by, and where we are at the angle, when I'm standing out on my outer deck, with my back against the railings, I can see those windows that Sheila's talking about. So my hope is that when I go straight up, that it's not, that angle is still gonna be perfectly in line. That's just kind of my hope when it happens.
Because if I am able to put an addition on, which I know I'd have to come here to have it done, and I'd have to get Michael's approval.
I don't know if I would sit through one of these meetings.
I would want to put a deck off the bedroom upstairs, just so I could sit out there. My brother unfortunately passed away, so I'm alone in the house right now. So I still want to stay in the house until time sometimes is that I'm not gonna be in the house, so.
Question on the view,
Huh?
Sheila and Michael, from your second floor windows, which
Yes.
is your area of concern, could you draw a line or show the direction for the view to Boston on this?
Yeah, so you would-
Does it go over your current addition?
No,
Does it
so
go
the-
over the
the-
porch?
No, it's
So that back right window, that front right window is barely over the pitch of that garage.
Correct.
So it would be the front window in the garage, and all those clearly, if you're kind of drawing this way, because the city is over this marsh, yeah.
So the line for the view to Boston goes across your deck?
Yes, yeah, it does, actually.
It
But I
goes
didn't-
across the deck, but the addition would not.
Right.
So that was my,
'Cause I didn't have to approve the deck. I didn't
But
get
I'm
a,
just trying to get the line of sight in my mind, the view that you're interested
it's
in.
where the kitchen, I mean, we,
You don't understand what I mean?
Yeah, I know what-
You can see over the roof as it currently
I can see
exists.
over the current addition.
Right, but
That-
with the addition there, you would not be able to see over that.
I
You'd
don't
have to-
know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, this
Again, I
was
don't wanna,
interesting line of sight.
I think they deserve to, they've done a lot of nice work on that house, because the house previously was, a little dilapidated, right?
and this
So-
hopefully will be our,
So it's, for the neighborhood, I think it's done a lot for the neighborhood, but, at the same time, I'm still being a little selfish that I want to make sure that I can still see Boston. We can see the fireworks on July 4th. I can see the fireworks out in the backyard. I don't know if you've ever been there for them, but you can see them. So, anyway, the marsh over time, and I'm sure you probably know this, when my parents moved into that house, the marsh was very low.
Oh, seagrass.
Yeah, the seagrass, what do they call it? They have a name.
Spartina.
What are they called?
Spartina.
Okay, good, thank you. Now it's way up here.
Phragmites.
It's completely different. Those are phragmites that have moved in,
Right, exactly.
phragmites, and they're
Exactly.
obstructing everyone's view.
Exactly.
It's really sad for people who used to have a nice little house
Exactly.
by a marsh and they could see across. Now they have a wall 20 feet high, and they
Exactly.
no longer have the value of a beautiful view. They're enclosed.
Exactly.
It's made a big difference in many areas with property values.
Is there
People who are by
anything-
the beach are no longer by the beach. They have 25 feet of phragmites, and
Exactly. That's
the property
exactly
is that going
values
to
have
continue to,
decreased.
is that going to continue to?
Unless we can figure out something to do. Yeah, the Phragmites. All
there-
up and down New England, into Connecticut, New York, Long Island, Phragmites.
Interesting.
Yes.
Is it something that they're trying to contain, or is it just,
Very labor intensive, very expensive.
well, I'm sure, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
there are no easy methods.
No, right.
Everything is expensive and takes time.
correct.
And then they will, after a time, even when eliminated, regenerate.
Yeah,
So you
right,
have to periodically go back.
right.
We'll take
Is it-
over the world, that and the sparrow, the English sparrow.
Oh, my goodness.
You know the
But
story.
is
the
that
history on
something
that,
that
right?
is, it belongs to
New
the
York dentist.
state, or does that belong? I know that we own part of that land out there. I don't
It's
know.
DCR that
Oh.
has the land.
What does that mean?
DCR, the Department of Conservation and Recreation.
Okay. So,
Used to be the MDC.
oh,
And then
okay.
in 92, they changed to
Right, okay, okay.
DCR.
Okay. So we own part of the land out there, but then most of it's owned by just DCR. Is that something that they would consider cutting down that so that we could get that view back? No, not even a thought.
Again, too
Money.
expensive.
It's money.
Too expensive.
Expensive, okay.
Yeah.
Because the abutters on the other side of Michael's house, they had a boathouse there. They have since converted it to an art studio, but there was a track going right out to the water. And when my parents moved in there, they moved in there in late 70s, there were boats out there. I remember seeing boats going by, small boats, but they went right out into the Neponset River. So
Big change.
it's not there anymore. But anyway, Boston still has a view, because the buildings haven't,
Phragmites.
the buildings are not included now. We
You can call it common reed as well, that's the other name. It's called common reed.
Common, oh, I like
Common
that,
read.
that's, because that's easy to remember.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, common read, okay. So anyway,
Yeah, just so that you know, if you're planning on coming back before us with a plan for your backyard as well, that we do have a 25-foot non-disturbance zone. So just in your mind, you measure from, and you'll see the line, you can see it in the picture. And that's that's not an official line, but it gives you a sense of where the margin stops.
Do you know where it is?
And the land starts.
Is it 25 feet from my hedges that about the marshland, or
Yes.
25 feet
Yes.
from?
Yeah,
On the marshland
so
side.
yeah, so this is our
Marshland
marsh.
itself.
The marshland side, not
So
on
that's a
the.
restricted area for building anything.
Yeah,
You would be able to go out to
You
the
should
deck
have,
almost.
you've got plenty of room.
yeah,
Yeah.
two of my neighbors went through this, and they've already warned me about that, but, yeah. Even, does it count the portion of the marsh that I own, or no?
Yes, it doesn't matter who owns it.
It doesn't matter?
Right.
Because that's
It
just
does not matter who owns
non-buildable.
it.
Okay,
It's from the resource area, and that would be where the marsh is.
okay, okay.
Right. And actually, people come in and say, well, that's not on my land, and we don't see boundaries, we see resource areas,
Of course,
the marsh. So
Okay.
we measure from the marsh.
okay.
But that's just a heads up, but it looks like you've got plenty of room there.
It doesn't, okay, that would be really nice. You can help me
Yeah.
do the 25 feet
Sure,
tomorrow. We can walk-
absolutely.
Do the walk.
Right from
So
the
in
deck.
terms of the view shed concern, it sounds like you guys already have a dialogue going and you,
Yeah, 'cause we went through this, what, 6 or 7 years ago, and,
I'd love, I don't know how we could maybe work it, but maybe we go up to those rooms and see, maybe figure something out to show it, but,
well, if you look at his house, the window at the very, very top, that's still gonna be there, right, Michael? This window up here? You're not going up that high.
no, we're going up,
I mean,
yeah,
ultimately, I
that
think
window's
we
not
need
gonna be
to
there, we're going right to the right.
decide if,
That's
you
gonna
know,
be there.
that's something we,
Right.
That
the
it would
jurisdiction
be
or-
lined
or
up
if
a little
we-
bit to the right, because
have it.
it's shaded to the
I
right.
did.
So that window won't be there, but because of
I usually
Wait,
have
it's
it in
set
my
it-
packet,
it's
but I
to
didn't.
the right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Bylaw?
Yeah, right here, you are good, Steve. No, thanks.
So what we're trying to decide is whether we include in a condition that we accommodate your view shed, you know, that you at least try to accommodate your view shed to try and, whether that's covered in the bylaw or
I
not.
think it's unrealistic.
And- I'm sorry?
I think it's unrealistic.
Well, I'm not saying to completely, you know, but to basically, you know, it sounds like you're halfway to coming to an agreement on what's
Yeah, like,
what's realistic.
unfortunately, we are set in our footprint.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So like, and there's really not, there's not much we can do. I hope that,
And I can't tell from the conversation what the line of sight is. And so that's,
yeah.
if this is
see,
an issue.
From this angle,
But it may not be within our jurisdiction.
but if from this angle is almost, you're looking at, like, this would probably be from the Boston angle, where you're coming in at an angle, like, when I'm in my bedroom, which is the two above the thing, I cannot see it because of trees, but I can see it on my deck, kind of on
Well,
that.
that was my question, whether the line,
The further out you go,
Yeah.
away from my house, closer to Sheila's, the clearer it becomes.
right, that was my original question, whether the line of sight went across your deck or across the roof of your addition.
Yeah, it would be more across the deck.
Okay.
If anything, that corner, if I was to watch the fireworks in Sheila, but it would be that front corner of my backyard would be the best spot, would be to watch.
I actually have a better view of Boston than you do,
Right, yeah, that's it.
of the whole street. I'm the one that has the view of Boston.
That's
These
it.
are the regs. Do you have the bylaw?
I do not.
Okay.
I didn't have it in my folder either.
Yeah, those are the
I think
regs.
Go to the regs.
this is something we can vote on tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not,
We can vote on this.
I think he's within his rights.
Yeah,
I did
it's
too.
not going out, no addition to the footprint. It's pretty simple.
The only, and we are talking about a notice of intent. The only thing that you have to be aware of is staging areas for construction. And contractors typically, they want to, if they bring in equipment like a boom truck, it's got hydraulic gears and hoses
Yep.
filled with oil and all that. You can't store those within our jurisdiction.
Correct, we're using, I'm 99% sure we're gonna use Crawford Construction, who's very well known in the Milton area, he lives in Milton, and I already mentioned all that to him, saying, my biggest concern is the conservation, and he told me that he's done this in this neighborhood, and he knows that he can't store anything there, and he's gonna bring everything away. The only thing would be the dumpster that would be in that driveway, but all of his tools will then
Good.
go and come as they go.
Very good.
All right, fair enough. All right, are there any other questions from commissioners? Are there any other abutters or members of the public that have a question or would like to make a comment? I'm not aware of any way that we could proposed this on the basis of the view concerns, and I know they're legitimate concerns. But I think from the wetlands protection and the resource area protection, there is no adverse impact from going up. So I entertain a motion to approve the order of conditions with our regular boilerplate restrictions. And what I'm talking about are the non-storage, and
Yep.
you can't refuel the equipment within our jurisdiction.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, good to go.
Can I just ask one question? I know you said there's no adverse effect, so, and I'm not trying to stop this from happening, because I totally support them doing it.
Yeah, we'll do it all.
So obstructing someone's view would not be an adverse effect? Are you more concerned about just the
It's not under the
property
wetlands-
and?
Not under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
And the question that we were trying to run to ground is whether or not it's a protected interest under the town bylaw. We've got the regulations, but we don't have the bylaw here in front of,
Yeah.
I meant to take it with me. We do have some extra interests like recreation
And aesthetics.
and aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
So I don't know if,
Is that another committee?
is it, no, it's not another committee. It's just whether or not we have jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is triggered because of the location and its proximity to a resource area, which is a wetland.
Right.
Or a body of water, or, water subject to
Yeah.
flooding. There are different definitions, but we're definitely within, or Mike's within the jurisdiction. But the values that we protect, we don't think includes the view. It does, it's got everything, it's got
So
recreation.
The aesthetic value of the wetland resource, but it is somewhat semantics, but not the aesthetic value of your
Of my
view
view.
shed of the city skyline. And
Wow.
I do apologize for the differentiation.
Semantic.
There's,
Because in the city of Boston, that's different. I know I don't live,
Yes, well,
do not
yes.
live in Boston,
Yes,
but
the-
I work in Boston, but it is absolutely
it
different.
is very
You
much.
cannot put a garage or anything that obstructs the view of the Charles River.
Yes.
I mean, they're very strict there.
Yes.
So butters
I think it
have,
also is, Sheila, if you're saying I should be able to see Boston from every location on my property, you're saying your second floor window, and yet you can see Boston from your backyard, you can see it from your front yard, you can see it from many places. I think in Boston, because of the smaller lots, like the Charles River,
Yeah.
Bay State Road or Beacon Street.
yeah, I know it well.
Then, they're one adjacent to another, so then you can't see it at all from any place on their property. You're talking about one particular area that you'd like to maintain, and I appreciate that, but that's a pretty high level of protection to ask any board to avoid, and we do not have jurisdiction.
No, I'm just curious. Well, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
I'll be putting an addition on the top of my house.
That's it.
So I can
Keep
see
going up and
Boston.
up and up.
I'll be coming back here to get that permission.
That's it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you very much.
Thank you. My,
You've got a second.
I got a second thing,
request.
correct.
But just as an FYI, this has not been yet been checked in with DEP. They haven't said they've received anything from you yet on the notice of
Oh,
intent.
but then ours
Did you
is,
send it to DEP?
Yeah, I just handed you the,
Okay, the cards, yes, but they haven't checked it in on their main board, which lists all the notice of intents that come in. They eventually will give this a file number, so it does not have yet a file number, just
all
for
right, so
your information.
the permit doesn't exist until you get the DEP file number.
Exactly, just for
so
your.
what did I not do in terms of,
No, if indeed you've got a DEP card that says DEP Northeast Region.
yeah, and they also cashed a
Cash the check.
check.
That's usually a.
They don't have a card that says DEP Northeast Region here. And I don't have a card that says DEP Lockbox either.
I used the exact abutters list and got it, I got all that, everything that from,
These are the abutters.
So to send it into the state.
Did you send it in?
so then so Kathy then gave it to me, I put everything in, I gave this whole file with package, sent it off to, I can look, yeah,
Wilmington?
Wilmington, yeah, with a check
Green card? No, the check has to go to another location, something, a
Okay, so then
lockbox in Boston.
I must be confused. Me and Kathy walked through every step, so
Should have been a green card to the lockbox?
there was no lockbox.
Okay, that should have just been the last 2 pages of the notice of intent form, called the wetlands transmittal form.
Okay.
So let's, can you talk to Kathy tomorrow morning? and
Absolutely, first
do it
thing.
the right way.
Great.
Do it the right way.
Is that, can this still go through? And
You don't have to come back to us, but it's not valid until you get a DEP.
That's fine,
number.
okay, yep. So I can just go tomorrow.
You can't start work until you get that deed.
Yeah, absolutely, yep, nope.
Just let you know.
So you don't have to come back before us. I know you'd like to come back before us.
I might come back anyways.
So the gentleman has
Public meeting.
another request as well,
Yes.
which is the next on your agenda, actually.
Yeah, I had to close my previous notice of intent
Ouch.
out.
And that's a request for a certificate of compliance
Oh,
for the deck, right?
For the deck, correct.
Right, just to let you know. You'll be signing things at the end.
And did you look at the deck, Steve?
I
Have you
did.
seen it? Okay.
Yes, it looks like it's done.
In substantial
the way-
compliance?
In substantial compliance.
An engineer, yeah. We have to have an engineer stamp.
Do you have a?
Not on a deck, because then I went to the building permit and tried to get the final plans, and he said not when it's a deck. I didn't need to do that. That was at least what he told me. So then I asked Kathy what I needed. I went to the deeds and filed that, and that was all. That was the final piece of the pie. Again, that's what she told me.
Why do you need a certificate of compliance?
Because I can't file for another, I can't have two
Open notices.
notices. That's probably why I don't have a number, actually, maybe, right?
No, you also sent it to the wrong place.
Okay. Yeah, I can't have two notices of intent with one still being open, so I had to close that, go to the deed, to the registry of deeds.
Who designed the, I remember when you came in.
Correct, yep.
For the deck, but who designed the deck? Did you have anybody helping you?
Yeah, I had a architect and construction company that I used for it, the same ones that did my addition.
Can you go back to the architect and have him produce a letter?
A letter, I think,
That says that it was
substantial
built within
completion.
substantial compliance. That's a term of art, built within
Okay, I'm just sorry, take a note.
substantial compliance of the order of conditions.
So a letter from,
The architect?
Architect.
and the terminology is what again? Sorry.
That the deck was built in substantial compliance with the order of conditions.
Of the ordinance. Deck was built in substantial compliance of the,
With the order.
With the order of conditions. Because you had an order of conditions that set out, it gave you permission to build the deck according to the specifications which you gave to us. So we just have to have a record that it was built in accordance with what you asked for.
okay,
Because otherwise, somebody could ask for a 10-foot deck and they build a 50-foot deck.
correct.
And that would be not in compliance with our order of conditions. So we need to have the architect that designed it say, yes, it was built as designed. But the terminology is built within substantial compliance with the order of conditions.
Okay. So when I got the original plans back from the building inspector who then signed off on it, wouldn't he then be the one that kind of overlooked it all and said, this is what your plans were and this is what?
Set of rules.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to understand it, so.
Yeah, so the building inspector is signing off as being in compliance with the building code. Under the Conservation Commission, this is under the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act. We're looking for a similar certification, but we asked that a registered professional, be it a surveyor, architect, landscape architect, or professional engineer, certify that it was built in conformance with the order of conditions that was issued. So when you went and filed the application with us, you said, this is what I'm gonna do. And then now it's years later, and someone, it just basically says, yeah, he did it.
Yeah.
He did it, just like that.
Okay, absolutely.
Now, do you think you can get that?
Yeah, I'll either get it or I'll pay for it, like,
He should have all the plans and everything.
yeah,
It's only a couple of
It's the
years,
same architect.
right?
no,
No.
not the same one that I'm using for this edition.
Okay.
So I have to go back to him. He's doing a bunch of buildings in Abington, so he's not able to do it in the time frame that we need. So I can go back to him and ask for it, but I do have the original plans that I presented to you and that I got from them, and
Yeah, it doesn't actually necessarily need to be the same.
It doesn't have to be, right?
Even the one that you're working with now might even be willing to issue the letter, for something else.
and that's what I think I'm just gonna ask is have her
I would,
just say, can you measure this?
That's a
and
good
go
idea.
from
yeah, if he's willing to, if the architect, he or she is willing to do that, then we would accept that.
there? Awesome.
Yep.
So, can you talk to him, and we have a meeting, a public meeting that we could vote on the 21st of this month? Because I don't want to slow you down. Can you get it by then?
Yes, but if I don't get this, I can't get the
You
notice.
can't get this one anyway. You don't have a number yet.
Right.
Right.
You can't.
But if I
it.
get that tomorrow morning, if I bring the check to wherever I need to, how long does it take?
No, you can't bring the check. You've got to mail the check to the lockbox. Sorry, these are the rules.
No, I understand the rule. I get it. Me and Kathy went through each one, so I'm surprised that it didn't.
Commonwealth rule.
Right, I'm surprised it didn't. No,
Steve, typically, once they get the check and they get the green notice, when do they give out the number? Within a week or 2 weeks?
Usually within 2 weeks. That's how
Okay.
long it's been taking.
About 2 weeks, okay.
About 2 weeks, yeah.
So
I
you
just
should
did
have your
one
number within
for
2
Boston.
weeks.
okay.
Yeah.
Which will happen about the same time that we're meeting again,
And this,
the 21st.
could I send this via email, or how do I then send the
Sure.
letter?
Yes, from the architect?
Yep,
Yes, you can send that to Steve or Kathy Bowen, or,
Sure.
and then we can kind of go from there.
yes.
Yep.
Then you can get both things at the same time.
Great.
I mean, this one you've already got the vote for the new construction, but you just, because you don't have the number, you don't have a permit,
Correct.
all right?
Okay.
And I know how that sounds.
No, it's
Formal
disheartening, but
discussion.
we'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll go down at 7:30 with Kathy and figure out where we went wrong.
She will not know what happened at the meeting at 7:30 tomorrow morning.
I will
So
inform
let's
her.
try it in the afternoon.
I will let her know.
All right.
A little later.
All right,
Okay.
thanks. So.
I'll leave her a message.
We'll put you on the agenda
Site
for the 21st?
Okay, so what is that? Is you come to the house, or I?
Yep. Yeah, we'll go by the house.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep, great.
Okay,
It's probably gonna be 9:30 or so.
perfect. Okay,
Perfect, thank you very much.
thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda is request for certificate of compliance. We did that. Request for certificate of compliance, 19 Low Circle. Hi, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I'm Mary McKettrick. I represent the owners of the property at 19 Low Circle, Renell and Raj Sinha. And as I explained in the letter that I sent to the commission, they hired me to help them with the process of selling their property, any legal issues that might come up. And in the course of researching their property, I was unable to find the certificate of compliance with their order of conditions, which was issued in 1994. So this is a situation that comes up sometimes really close to a closing, and I know you can never resolve that in the time frame that everybody wants, because it takes a month or 2 months for the commission to meet and consider. So we did as much research as we could, and I explained some of this again in my letter. Various things are missing. I was able to find a copy of the plan that was filed with the notice of intent, and I've given you a copy of that. I was able to find a partial plan of the notice of intent that was filed for Low Estates. That was, Low Estates Notice of Intent was issued a certificate of compliance in 2005. So somebody didn't get that either when they should have, but at some point, a homeowner was trying to sell their property and realized that it was
It's
missing.
happened a lot.
Yeah, I know it happens all the
whole low
time.
circle, we see it every couple of years, and mostly on refinancing.
Yeah. So what's happening, so what happened in 2005 is that notice of intent, you issued a certificate for all the lots, but certain lots have a requirement that they have to have their own order of conditions. And this is one of those lots, because on this side of Low Circle is our wetlands. And this particular lot and the lot on either side of it have a lot of wetlands as part of their lot. So there were, so the question becomes, you know, what do you do to get the notice of intent? I don't have an as-built plan. Nobody did one back in 1995. There was an as-built plan for the house, just as you were talking with the previous applicant. That went to the building department, and for building code purposes, that as-built plan was approved, and an occupancy permit was issued. The Sinnas were the first owners of this property, and they bought it as a completed house. It hadn't been lived in by anybody else. In the preceding 2 years, the property changed hands 3 or 4 times, mostly among various corporate entities, some of which were related to each other. So I can't explain it, you know, I guess there's no reason to even try to explain why nobody got this notice of intent, or finished this certificate. When the Sinners bought the house, they just weren't aware that it hadn't been completed. They thought they were all set. So what I've done so far is ask the Sinners to consult with an engineer and have him come to the property and inspect the property and look at the plan and see what he thought the plan required that was particular to this lot. And what he found were there are 2 conditions that are specific conditions for the lot. And one is that there be a connecting pipe from their house drains going into the ground and then draining downhill towards a created retention area that was part of the Low Estates order of conditions. And the retention area is there. It's cleaned. That's an area that's the responsibility of the homeowners association, and they clean it regularly and have engineer come and look at it.
That's
And there's
by Metropolitan Ave?
Metropolitan Ave is on the back, towards beyond the back of this lot.
But is that where the detention pond is?
No, the detention pond is right at the corner of this property.
Oh, this property, because we've been out there for
Yeah.
at least one of the
The other
detention
one.
projects.
Right. The way I would describe it is, you go all the way around the circle, and you come back around. So as you go into Low Estates, this property's on the left side of the circle. And there are wetlands in back of the property. And to the right of this property, there's a way that is the driveway for this beginning of the driveway for this property, and goes much further into a lot and back. And just beyond that way, there's a detention pond that was created to absorb water. And it looks like it's doing that. It happens to have a dead tree in it at the moment, but that's going to be cleaned out, I guess, by the homeowners association in the near future. Also, to the left of this property, there's a drain that was created as part of the Low Estates plan. And that drain also drains, it's just to the left, it's on the neighbor's property, drains back into the wetlands. This property has significant limitations in terms of what you can do with it, because in back of the house, there are wetlands, and from the wetlands coming back out toward Low Estate, you have the 100-foot area that the house is within that area, which is why you need a notice of intent for this property. There's a 20-foot, that's how it's described in this notice of intent, which goes back years, non-disturb area, and then 80 more feet is the 100-foot area of jurisdiction. So that's what we have so far. What we were able to get for the commission was a letter from the engineer saying that the drain had been installed. I actually was supposed to have color pictures for you tonight, but I didn't get copies of them, but I gave you black and white copies. We went on site, Renell Sinna, who's in here tonight, and I were there, and by inspection and by putting a hose into the drain pipe from the house, we were able to see that water was coming out in a particular area, and he was able to find the pipe. It's underground, but he put his, stick down there, and he was able to locate it. The reason for the pictures is to show you, that that's now marked with a stake, so you can tell where the end of the pipe is. The other picture here is the backyard, and the Sinner's backyard has a little strip of grass in back of the house, but it's just woods, and it's leaf litter, and it gets wetter as you go in the back. It's quite clear that it does lead into a wetland area just by looking at it. They've never done anything with this area. I think they have some wooden benches sitting there, but they just haven't touched it.
That's all. It's quite untouched, not mowed. I saw it today, by the way.
Oh, good.
Good.
And I did see the pipe as well, the pipe end. And it must come up to the ground and then just work over the ground. And it doesn't really, and I would agree with the engineer, it doesn't really need any stone, any stones there. Doesn't really need what it called for in the beginning.
There's no record of any plan for this, is it called a stone flange or?
Stone flange or stone.
I wasn't sure what
stone
that meant, but the engineer explained it to me, that
Yes,
sometimes
exactly.
those are stones that are put under the pipe to help them direct or absorb water, I
Actually
guess.
slow the flow of water down, so it doesn't erode as it comes down the hill, because there's quite a steep hill just beyond that pipe. But there's no indication of any erosion, because the water probably bubbled up from the pipe and then went level spreaded over the ground.
And that's what we saw it do, too, when we
Oh, you did?
tested
Oh,
it.
very good.
There's no visible erosion or anything
No,
below the pipe.
none
And we
whatsoever.
know that it's draining because it was draining when we tested it, so that's the pipe. I don't know, I couldn't determine that there was anything else that they needed to do. If they had to prepare an entire new plan for this lot, it would be quite an expensive undertaking. They'd have to go out and remark what, I don't know how you would do it exactly, but in lieu of.
You could prepare an
yeah.
as-built. You
Yes,
could do that.
yes.
But this was 1990 what?
1994, it was issued, and, here we are.
The first one was 93. I'm looking
Yes,
at
that's
special
lowest
condition
state, yeah.
39, and what is it that is the reference to the other order of conditions? Reference is made to the order of conditions recorded with Norfolk Registry of Deeds on July 7, 93.
That's
which
the lowest
contains-
state's order of conditions.
Right, but affecting this lot. It's referring to
yes.
those conditions affecting this lot.
So I gave you
Must be met.
I gave you a copy of the lowest state's order of conditions, that's why you have so much material here. And so what I will say to you is that it refers, first of all, the lowest state's order of conditions refers to a requirement that certain lots have their own order of conditions.
So that's special condition 52.
That's right. And then there's a list of conditions for those lots which relate generally to what they're not allowed to do. I can get it in front of me, read them to you if you want. If you give me just a minute, see if I can find it. This is lot B13.
I think it begins 9974 at the top, is that correct?
That's what I have.
That's DEQE number 46167?
Right.
Right, that's what we're looking for in your pages.
It's, I should have numbered these, I'm sorry about that, but, anyway, I'm gonna find it for you.
They say 9974 at the top. That's the specific one for this lot, is that correct?
No,
It's not, okay.
9974, 46167 is for low estates.
Okay, it's for the estates.
And
okay.
because that has specific reference to certain lots having additional conditions,
Yes.
Okay,
that's
that was-
why the chairman's asking for what those were.
So condition 52 is what details all of those.
Yep.
Yes, and this lot was B13, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the applicant places restrictions on lots B12, B13, et cetera. Conservation restriction area is defined as a bordering vegetated wetland area. It's shown in the subdivision plan. It's also shown on the NOI plan for this lot. You can't have any buildings, roads, pathways, trails, sheds, fences, utility poles, temporary or permanent structures. I thought it was interesting that you couldn't even have trails, but within this area, with the exception of the reconstruction and maintenance of the existing driveway. I described that to you already. That's on the right side of the property. No soil, refuse, and so forth can be dumped in the area. No trees can be cut or removed or otherwise destroyed. No loam can be excavated. No activities detrimental to drainage, flood control, water conservation are allowed. There had to be siltation barriers. There's still some evidence of the plastic from the siltation barriers, so I guess they were there at one time. No pesticides or herbicides applied within 20 feet of the wetlands. Fertilizer is supposed to be of the low nitrogen variety. These are the types of conditions you put in a lot of your orders today. Fill material was supposed to be uncontaminated native soil. There wasn't any additional fill as far as I know, but I don't know. So, and 20 feet from the bordering vegetative wetland was supposed to be maintained in a permanent natural state. So nothing, not only in the vegetative wetland, but 20 feet from it. Now it's 25 feet, I guess, in the bylaw, so. In any case, all I can tell you is that the Sinners haven't touched that area in all the time that they've lived there, which is more than 20 years. This is an important issue for buyers of this property to understand what they can and cannot do. And there's an additional requirement, and I believe it's in the Lower States Order of Conditions, it may be in the one for this lot, that in the deed to this property, specific reference has to be made to the Order of Conditions. And that is in the Sinners deed. I gave you a copy of that, so you can see what the language is. So that would have to be included in the deed to a new owner.
Yes.
It's a lot of homework.
Yeah, you did a lot of research. And you're scaring me because I signed all these.
Scaring him because his signature, right? I saw that.
I was surprised that you were on the commission then. I had no idea that it went back that
1993.
far.
I've been here a long time.
Yeah.
Graduated high school in '94.
Did you hear that?
What's that?
Graduated high school in '94. Sorry.
You've come a long way.
Maybe.
Teachers, yeah.
Well, the only thing that I can see, most of these restrictions, if you will, run with the land, and I think you made a good point. I'm in 52. And I don't think a certificate of compliance would necessarily.
I don't think it's required.
It's not required for that. I mean, like.
I think it more is written that this survives in perpetuity of the certificate, so that, you know, these individual conditions carry with the land.
Right.
Right, and I think if you put that in the deed, that would be sufficient compliance. I'm more hung up on the B13 itself and looking at 39 and 40.
Yep.
And I think that the drain pipe that you tested is 40, which is energy dissipation device for perimeter drain.
Yeah.
Shall be submitted to the conservation agent for approval. At the time, I think it was Angela Hanna, who was our agent at the time. And I confess, I don't remember whether or not we approved a dissipation device for that. But if the drain is working, and it seems to be, Steve, are you aware of where this pipe is when they?
Oh, I saw it.
You saw
I
it?
saw the pipe, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So if that seems to be working, and if we had some kind of attestation of that, which I think we do,
Yes.
then that may be sufficient in itself. Because I'm not sure what else the homeowner could do. Looking back 25 years. Is there anything else that we should be looking for? I actually, when I first saw this, I thought this was going to be an issue as to the functionality of the detention basin. Because at one time, that was an issue, because it wasn't being cleaned. And people were looking for certificates of compliance, and the homeowners association wasn't doing anything. But as you say, apparently now they are, or they're about to.
The homeowners association applied for the certificate in 2005. That may be when the trouble started, but who knows? But I can tell you that the Sinners have reported that there is maintenance now being performed on that particular drainage basin, which is the one that they see from their property. So they have started doing it if they weren't doing it before. And it does certainly hold water.
Okay, so the certificate of compliance, I think, should be done in such a fashion that it extends into the future so that it's not over and done for the new homeowner, that those restrictions will continue into the future.
But I think we also, don't we need some sort of a document for now that some authority says they looked over the property and they're aware of what conditions need to be updated, need to be complied with, and according to their expertise, things are in compliance. Who can do that at this point? Like we would have an engineer.
Well, the engineer who tested the drainage pipe, that's why I'm
Is
hung
that
up
good
on
enough?
40.
Okay,
I would think so.
considering
Yeah,
the
I
other
think-
conditions to just focus on that one, or?
So just to be clear, was there an individual notice of intent that was filed for this lot?
Yes.
Yes, and it is in your material.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
so
okay.
that's the order of condition that's
Okay.
looking to.
It's 46177, that's the number.
Okay.
I've got it here marked off.
Yeah.
That's the page that's not the beginning of it, but that's the order of conditions for this particular lot.
Okay. Okay.
That's why you can see those are
Yeah.
39 and 40.
But I guess what I'm overlooking is, so this would be Clifford Carlson, we're talking about this letter specifically from June 25th, he was there, and it's dated June 28th.
That's correct.
And the beginning of the second paragraph says the work has been completed in substantial completion with the order.
Compliance?
It
This
says
is
the work has been
completion twice.
completed in
Okay.
substantial completion.
Completion.
With
Interesting.
the order.
Yeah. Interesting.
Although he does note this, that the footprint has been changed to show a column-supported deck at the rear of the house, which was added after the Hannigan plan. And I'm not sure what that refers to.
Well,
At the rear of the house, there is a very narrow deck, surprisingly narrow deck, actually, that was added. It might have been to go from one location to another around the house.
it is narrow. There's a wider deck on the side, which was part of the plan that was approved in the
Yes.
as-built. I went to the building department, talked to the building commissioner about it, and we looked at the plan together. And the deck is a wide deck on the side, but the narrow area that is an additional part of the deck, I guess, that's not shown on the plan, and it wasn't added by the Sinners either. It was there when they bought the house. So it's a bit of a mystery. So I asked the building commissioner it doesn't extend into anywhere near the 20-foot area or anything like that.
That's what I was
It's right against the edge of the house.
Yes, and again, very narrow, 4 feet
Maybe
or
just
so.
identify
But
that as a slight deviation.
building commissioner said the best he could do was, from a building code standpoint, is that it's been in existence for more than 10 years. He would inspect it to make sure that it was safe, but he would just write a letter saying that when a structure, these days, there's a new statute that says if it wasn't approved, if it didn't have a building permit, but it was built anyway, that it becomes legal after 10 years. That doesn't have anything to do with conservation, and I'm not trying to tell you that it does. I'm just saying that we did look at this issue because we noticed it as well.
Well, Steve, from your perspective, would that be an insignificant change to the
Yes.
order?
And the reason is, it's de minimis because of its size related to the entire structure and the other deck systems on the site.
And it doesn't encroach within 25?
It does not, no, I'm sure of that. It's actually right along the house and the other area, there's, as Marion described, there's a lawn area and then there's an open area that's not touched. It's an untouched area it's been maintained very well, or I should say lack of maintenance very, very well. I was surprised to see it actually, that well done.
Well, it doesn't this letter, it's in conformance with our requirement, and does that satisfy your
It does.
question?
Yes, it does.
It does for me as
It
well.
does.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
So
Unusually
based on that,
satisfied,
and
yeah.
reading both, the 52 in the general provision, which requires that the restrictions on the use of the land go forward as part of the deed, and then with respect to the number 40, back in the B13 lot, it says that the perimeter drain essentially shall be functioning properly. And with the attestation from Clifford Carlson, I think you're compliance. Does anybody have a different view? So then is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for B13 with the provision that in accordance with the order of conditions for the lower states, 52, that all of the restrictions be added to the deed on a go-forward basis?
There's I think, I have the language that's included in the current deed.
Yes.
I believe that's what you're referring to.
I was actually referring to...
That, this is what's
52.
required,
Okay.
yes, this is the language that's required by the lowest state's order of condition, which says, restrictions as set forth, and this is, this conveyance is subject to and with the benefit of the following matters of record. Restrictions as set forth in a certain order of conditions from the Milton Conservation Commission to the grantor, recorded said deeds, blah, blah, blah. The lot B13 contains either wetlands or buffer zone to wetlands within its boundaries as delineated on sheets 5 and 6 of the plan that's referred to earlier, and as such is affected by the restriction that land within 20 feet of the bordering vegetated wetlands line or base elevation of the detention basin be maintained in a natural state. Any of the proposed activities involve grading, construction, or alteration of property within 100 feet of the wetlands delineation line or the base of the detention basin requires approval of the Milton Conservation Commission. That's the language that's taken from the original order of conditions for lower states and is required in this deed by that order of conditions. Is that satisfactory for what you're talking about?
As you were reading, I was waiting for some of the provisions in 52.
So the maintenance of the drain, maybe, is that what you're talking about? Another
Part of it,
reference?
You went through it, and this is,
So the
it's 52.
A through I,
Yes. It's 52,
so.
and it applies to B13.
Oh, you're talking about the, yeah, okay.
Conservation
Yeah, sorry.
restriction area.
Right.
So there should be some reference in the deed to provision 52 in the order of conditions.
Yeah.
And the conditions that are
Okay,
listed.
so to add to the language that's currently in the deed, I know you're going to reference this anyway in your certificate in some way, that there's this
Yes,
requirement.
correct.
But that we would be adding language to the deed that specifically references condition 52, and which is, and the order of conditions is recorded, so I can reference that as it's already referenced in the deed, but it doesn't specifically reference item 52, which refers to this lot. So we would add that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Okay,
So with that provision, is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with those conditions?
So,
Second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you
Did get
very
all that,
much.
Steve?
I got some of it. There was a lot of discussion.
Yes. All right, I'll go over the specific sections in here, because I've got a marked on.
Good.
Thank you.
And we have a certificate of compliance to sign tonight. We've got a number of things we need to sign tonight.
Correct.
And so that's on the list, Mary, just for your information.
Thank you very much.
Okay, certainly.
All right.
So,
Are you?
I'm here
you
for the
want
next one,
too?
so,
All right, thanks.
yeah.
That's 19 Low Circle. The next one is a notice of intent, 153 Hillside Street, continued hearing.
So what happened after the last hearing was that we were hoping to be, well, you had asked for some updates and changes, addition of flags on the site, and also that would have required, and some additional notes on the plan, including staking the footprint of the area of work. I think that's what you've asked for. So we weren't able to do that for the last site walk, which was right after, pretty soon after the meeting. And so I notified the commission, and as we discussed at the meeting, I said I'd like this continued to this meeting in order to set a date for a site walk. And at that time, the plan will have been revised, the flags have been added to and moved twice by Lenore White, and the staking or marking of the area of work would have been completed. The problem is, we could be ready to do this Saturday because the engineer agreed that he could get the work done by Friday. Lenore White's here on Saturday, Jeff Kane's available on Saturday, but you're not, because you already discussed when you could do site walks. Am I right, correct?
Right.
The 21st, I have to have Lenore White at this site walk, because she's our conservation consultant, our wetlands consultant, and she will not be available for the following 2 weeks. So now I'm going to have to, and this is not a big disaster for us, because we don't have an urgent time frame with this application. I'm not trying to waste your time, though, but we need to go to August to do the site walk. And we won't know the date of that site walk until you meet in August, unless you want to set it now, but I don't think you can do
What's the
that.
date in August that we're meeting?
I think it's the 14th.
14th.
The 14th.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So, we'll
The
keep working
potential,
on it.
the Saturdays are, let me think, 14th, well,
Yeah, well, it would be,
I'll tell you exactly.
18th.
Saturdays are 4, 11, 18, and 25.
25. If we could set a day, it would be great, because it's far enough ahead of time that they just have to be available. And they should be. Lenore White was apologetic, but she's going to be away, and she scheduled it a long time ago, so.
No, that's fine.
Sure. It's not
So we could do it, it wouldn't be the 4th or the 11th, since we'd have other things to do on that site walk, so it would have to be either the 18th or the 25th. I believe I can do either one. You know?
I can't do the 25th. I think I can do the 18th.
Okay.
I can do the 18th if we're out early. I have to be in New Hampshire.
Okay. We'll be inspired and motivated.
I can do the 18th.
quickly.
That's a quorum, but yeah, I'll do my best.
All right, so we've got a quorum for the
Okay.
18th. Let's target that and set that down.
That's great, thank you.
Good.
Right. We may, just so everyone knows, if you're interested, and I know sometimes you go to these sites, some flags have been moved. It's very dense vegetation in there now,
Yes.
middle of the summer.
Oh, yes.
It's all growing up. So I may not have him mark the site until August, because if he puts something in now, it's possible it'll actually be somewhat overgrown. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, if it's above the wetland, you'll be able to see stakes, the bean poles.
Okay, so he could probably
You'll-
just go ahead and do that then, as he
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
planning.
if it's
I
above
think
the
you're
wetland.
safe now, yeah.
The wetland is very, very dense
Yeah.
in that area, but above the wetland.
Okay,
I
well-
say above, elevation above the wetland. It
It-
should be okay.
It should be done well ahead of this date, and we should have a revised plan then for you that I can send to the commission so that you'll have it before the site walk. And I'll show up at the next meeting, because you have to continue to the next meeting. Or no, you don't. I guess I don't have to. If I don't have to be here otherwise, then I
No,
probably
you don't have to
won't.
be here on the 14th.
Okay, good. So it's just continued to the 18th.
To the 18th,
And we're talking about 153 Hillside Street.
correct.
This is the
Yes.
Scotswood Preservation Trust
Right.
property.
And it does have a file number. It's 046-0539. That's its file number. I just checked it today.
046,
0539.
okay.
Did we give you the notice cards?
I don't believe so.
Because I haven't seen, I haven't seen the engineer who I don't know, I think he mailed them out. So I have to get those to you, and I will do that.
I don't remember getting them last time from him.
Yeah.
A month ago.
All right, then I'll ask him. I know he has them. Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We should also make note of the fact, though, that we did get a letter concerning this property
Yes.
from a
Did you see
butters.
that letter?
No, I don't have a copy.
I will give you a
I should have
copy.
checked.
Did you get from Keenan and Stephanie Foley?
There's a copy for you. Sit down. Glad I have that copy.
It was in the package tonight. Right, Steve?
Yes, that's correct. Came in,
Here it is, John.
I think it came in today.
It wasn't in our package, it was delivered.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
underneath there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you for giving me a copy.
Certainly.
We'll
Oh, yeah.
communicate. Thank you very much.
Mary, I'm sorry, did you get a copy of the letter that we just
Yes.
got tonight? Okay.
Steve just gave it to me.
Fine.
All right, but we don't have to read this for tonight.
No.
All right, we're done, okay. So that is
That's homework for August 18th.
homework, okay.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So next on the agenda is notice of intent 531 Elliott Street. And I dropped the ball. Hey, good evening and welcome.
Yep.
We just ran out of tape. Hold on a second.
You've got your reading specs on. Oh, you have my little list. That's my little list.
Yes, that's
Okay,
the same,
fine.
that's the same one.
Good. Yeah. Take the last one out. Delete the last one. That was. Otherwise, it stands. That's a list of recommendations. I don't know if you saw it. Did I copy you or you folks? Maybe it was John.
Ready? Oh, good. All right, welcome.
Hi, I'm Tom Palmer, of course, and I'm here representing Lucian and Tia McPherson, homeowners at 531 Elliott Street. We are trying to get to a point where your instructions for completing the work in the lot are complete, so the work can begin. Many of you were at the site visit at the end of last month, and as you know, the issue is the removal of fill that's in jurisdiction and the stabilization and planting of the backyard. On 6/18 and 6/25, I sent emails to the Concom with suggestions for conditions. I hope you've seen those emails. So that's where we are now, I believe. I hope we can move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for your follow-up. And I'm looking at the string of emails going back and forth. And I think that for the public's benefit, the recommendations made by Steve to the commission, and they seem to be in conformance with what we discussed at the site walk. Where number one, a wetland scientist shall be hired to verify the resource areas on and immediately adjacent to and north of 531 Elliott Street. That's number one. Number two, hand removal of fill within 6 feet of all the trees on the site. Number three, removal of all fill on site within the tree's drip line. That is, back to the original elevation, the original grade. Number four, a 3-to-1 slope or better, that is less steep slope, 4-to-1, et cetera, from the drip line towards Elliott Street. Number five, removal of the fill adjacent to the water flow emanating from the 18-inch culvert at the garage head wall to 25 feet from the edge of the water. Number six, pre-removal conference on site with the applicant, consultant, and conservation agent. Number seven, on-site environmental consultant while fill removal is taking place. Number eight, once fill is removed, loaming and seeding the resultant surface and stabilizing with jute matting as appropriate to ensure stabilization before the grass grows. Number nine, removal of vegetation along water flow, done as a precondition of having vegetation to be planted on the site and inspected by the conservation agent for health and native species before any vegetation is removed from along the flowage. Number 10, no additional scouring of trees with heavy equipment. And I think that And I know, Tom, you've got that, and I think I read it accurately. I left off
Yes.
11 because I don't think that's,
That doesn't
doesn't
apply.
apply.
Number 11 is removed? Is that
Yes.
the proposal? Yeah,
So, yeah, do you have a response to those? And I know we've, for the public's benefit, we've had the benefit of reading this before, but
Right.
Tom, I didn't know if you were in conformance. I know you had some comment.
yeah. I would just mention that on the 18th, I suggested that the Norway maple is shown on the plan at the rear of the garage, the 10-inch DBH, that could be removed. That is within your jurisdiction, right at the edge. So I propose adding that. You might consider that it's already subsumed under number 9. It is fairly close to the ditch. That's something we would like to do.
John, before you go on, John, can I just comment? My concern with removing it, I know that Norway maples aren't very popular among commission members, except myself, because it's a tree. But I'm concerned with the rootage and the stabilization of the bank. If you take the tree out, what's going to happen to the bank?
Well, it's not really on the bank. There's a head wall there that's not right at the back of the garage. The head wall is, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 feet behind the garage. Norway maple is off to the side of the head wall and closer to the garage. It's true that it's in the area, but I think if you were to cut it near the ground, the roots would remain for a long time. They would eventually rot away.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't really have much influence on the stability of the head wall. That's just what it's, in fact, the reason I think Lucian and Tia would like it to come out is that the roots are very close to the garage foundation and could damage it as they
And then
swell.
if we did our usual 3-to-1 and you planted 3 little trees instead, better quality native trees, then that would help the whole area as well. And with the removing the Norway maple, then that area is more suitable for planting, because as we know, Norway maples, you can't plant anything within their vicinity. They're sort of toxic. So I'd be in favor.
Allelopathic,
Exactly.
right,
Just to
chemicals.
get fancy about stuff.
Sorry.
Yes.
Pretty dense shade, too.
So I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Looking at the other conditions, as I said in my email of the 25th, my client objects to the extra expense contemplated here, meaning a wetland scientist shall be hired to verify the resource areas. I mapped them myself. Steve looked at them. This would be a third person. We are talking about the rear of a single-family lot. And I also went on to say that we would be willing to map them the way the commission pleases, because all the area is already jurisdictional, thanks to the riverfront area. It's my conclusion that that ditch, the stormwater ditch, is not a stream because, as the definition says in the state law, it doesn't have any bogs, swamps, and wet meadows and marshes of gradient of it. That is my reasoning for not mapping it as a stream. On the other hand, as Steve noticed, it's not strictly only stormwater that comes through that ditch. There's a little flow that must be groundwater coming through the system of catch basins. I did perform the full DEP Monty in terms of doing the data sheets and the soil pits in the 2 rear corners of the lot. And while we were there, the site visit at the northeast corner, Judith noticed that ornamental shrub, jet bead, which is not a wetland plant. I do have a little quick list of plants that are beyond the fence. I have been beyond the fence. Somebody mentioned well, maybe there's BVW beyond the fence, and hence there would be a no disturb zone coming through the fence. Here are some of the upland species that I noted beyond the fence. Winged euonymus, Norway maple, multiflora rose, highbush blackberry, Norway spruce, black cherry. All of those are upland plants, and I have been past the fence all the way to the riverbank, and it's my conclusion that that area is not wetland either. So,
Well, you know, Hans, when you suggested it at the time, when we were out there, you know, getting an additional viewpoint, it seemed like a good idea, but I'm a little sympathetic to the cost involved for these homeowners. And if you're willing to comport with what the conservation agents, you know, specifically what we are saying are the borders and those constraints, I'd be willing to forego the additional expense of a, what do you think, Hans? Are you still?
In terms of verifying where the resource areas are defined?
Yeah.
So Steve, have you provided, so the issue I had, I didn't see flags out there. I didn't see any.
No, there aren't any.
And so, you know, it was difficult to say where the resource areas or what the various resource areas were.
And yet we know just basically the whole backyard is within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, so the.
Right, that's obvious.
So other than just
And
out
so,
of,
for the restoration purposes, to try and identify how far back you need to pull the dirt.
Well, we're still going to the drip line, which is
yes,
a substantial way, actually.
yes.
I'm sorry I didn't point out those drip line flags. They were there. They had
I noted
fallen.
them. I did note
No, I
them.
think we're all aware of them.
Yeah.
And as long as we're doing that, which
Yes,
is
exactly.
critical.
Right. That's the most important
I'd be
thing.
willing to forego, you know, the third evaluation aspects.
And I'd agree with that, Judith, absolutely.
I'm with you, except for there are no flags here, so what is your take on the wetlands at the back of the property? That was what we were focused on. I mean, we can all see the top of bank.
I still think that little pooling area with the rice grass, rice cut grass,
White grass.
white grass, thank you, the white grass may be a wetland resource. A little tiny BVW along the stream. The stream also may have it does have some wetland indicator plants along the stream on the westerly bank of the stream, away from
Right, understood.
the area. So there may be tiny sections, I mean, if you're gonna do micro flagging, that's what I call micro flagging. Tiny sections of BVW along the stream itself.
See, I guess my question is, other than just empirical evidence, why do we need to know this? Because we know anyway, we have jurisdiction, we know we're within this,
Yeah,
you
so
know.
my question was the
If,
definition of whether it was a stream or not, and where the stream started and ended.
But if they will comply, assuming it is a stream, you know, and go along with us that way, you know, to the most strict conservation requirements, then we don't need to have a third
Correct.
person actually putting the
quick
flags up.
tangential question, have you looked upgrading to all the catch basins in that 15-acre area to see whether there are any wetlands?
Well,
Upgrading for the catch
it is my
basins.
neighborhood. You
Yeah,
know,
that's-
unless it's in somebody's backyard,
Right,
which I
okay.
don't think
Okay,
is the case.
I'm just
yeah.
asking.
When we were there for the site visit originally, I checked on the other side of the street, probably about 4 house lengths, and could find no source of water whatsoever on that side, which led me to believe that is created by street runoff. How it's trafficked from street runoff and from what distances
And
into that other.
groundwater, it's infiltration most likely from groundwater.
It
That's
could be
my-
that too, because there is a rise on the other side.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's my suggestion.
But not only groundwater. I
Right.
think a lot of it's,
A lot of it's street runoff, of course.
Yeah, we determined it was about 15 acres based on the town's drainage maps.
Right.
Of stormwater.
Right.
An area where it's not all impervious are houses and lawns, but that's, the impervious area is directed to that pipe. An 18-inch concrete pipe, which is, to use a botanical term, it's torulose. That means it's narrow and thick and narrow and thick.
Right.
Or you call it corrugated. That's sort of a pipe you don't see anymore. That's probably an old pipe. And I presume they made it 18 inches because they're aware of how many streets it had to drain.
But following through on your emails, as I read them, Tom, I thought it made sense. We were talking about staging this step by step. And I think it's a good sequence that is being described. And I think it responds to our concerns of moving that soil as quickly as possible so the tree roots are not getting destroyed from the lack of oxygen, et cetera. I think it's a good progression. I'd be in favor of it.
If I may, I would comment on a couple more of these. Number 6, pre-removal conference on site with applicant, consultant, and conservation agent.
Say again?
Pre-removal conference on site with applicant, consultant, and conservation agent. That's one of the proposed conditions, which seems sensible, but my question is, who is that consultant? Is that me? Who is intended to be referred to there?
I think I meant contractor in that case.
Because that's what's
Instead of
missing.
consultant.
The contract.
Okay.
It's the contractor that's the most important person here in terms of getting the job done
Right.
properly.
So you want to be there
Yes.
when he is shown the job. and-
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
Makes sense.
You're the conservation agent.
Right, exactly, yes. Yep.
If I, go ahead.
Speak.
No, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
certainly.
I just, clarification, communication, good, but go ahead, finish.
All right, on number 7, on-site environmental consultant while fill removal is taking place. That seems reasonable as well, because I think almost the most important thing about all this is to get those, the right amount of fill removed in the right places to the right depths. So somebody should be looking at that. But who is that person that is intended when it says environmental consultant? All right, I'm fine with do it.
Hold up the mirror.
All right.
That's who I thought you meant.
That's who I thought you meant
we'd
too.
hope you would want to be that person.
All right, I'm going to write in applicants, just so I
Okay.
Applicant's consultant,
know
sure.
what's going
And
on.
the applicant can choose their consultant, so.
Okay.
You want somebody there,
Be careful.
you want somebody there who understands how to find the original soils.
It was very instructive during the site visit. One of the neighbors, if you weren't there, the neighbors showed up in force to say that Mr. McPherson has been a good neighbor. And one of them picked up my shovel and started using it like a pick, sort of.
Yes.
To try to get through that stuff. It was remarkable how tough it was.
Right.
All right, well, those were the issues. I think otherwise, now that we're not looking at one anymore, I'll be glad to revise a plan to map the resource areas how you would like. And something else that was mentioned on this site was extend the drip line flags a little bit more toward LH Street. When I put them in, I stopped at the end of jurisdiction, but they could have gone a little further to reach to the trees toward that end. So yes, those can be extended. I think the fill is very shallow in that area, by the way. So I'm glad that we seem to have an idea of how to go forward now, and I would ask Lucian if he has anything more to add.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Lucian mentions that he is working on his house, and,
Trying to.
yes.
Not.
Right, okay. And I think he was told that the reason his building permit is held up is that the conservation issue was unresolved. Is that correct? Is that what you heard from the town?
In short.
Yeah, so I guess your question is, can we get the building permit?
For,
We have a need, as you see the garage and the roof is leaking. We've already been canceled by one insurance company. There's been repairs that we need to make. And
Garage specifically.
on the house, period.
Not the house.
On the house and garage, both roofs that need to be done, among other things. And so there's a notice there.
Well, the garage is clearly within our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So you have to come to us anyway.
Yeah, so if you're gonna do work on the garage, then, but the house itself is actually
yeah,
outside
that shouldn't be.
of our jurisdiction. I mean, that's where,
Okay.
Yeah, we
And
don't have,
are you just repairing the roof of the garage? Are you just like patching it or something, or?
The roof needs to repair, the siding needs to be done, garage doors need to be replaced,
are you
but
structurally altering the footprint, I guess is the question.
No,
Are you-
no,
you're
it's
not looking
all-
to make it bigger? Or-
no.
So, we can probably wrap that into this, or your other choice is to file what's called an RDA, which is a request for determination of applicability. So if you're not changing anything, it's a simple filing that says, you know, this is what you're proposing to do. Is it,
If it's clearly maintenance and
It's-
repair,
It's not.
It's
He's
not.
violated 2 of our orders, and we've got to formalize this. And it may be an RDA is faster and quicker for you.
For the-
And
for
for your
what?
knowledge, I personally, and to my knowledge, nobody on the Conservation Commission has had any communication with the building department.
that is correct. Neither have I. I have not had any communications
So
from
I
or
don't know
to
where that
building
comment
departments.
or rumor
None
came
whatsoever.
yeah, so if the building department is saying that, I'd highly recommend, you know,
You asked them
having
who?
them to contact either Steve or Kathy.
Sure.
Okay.
And to clarify what is meant there.
Right.
You should be able to proceed with the building department on the house without any concern to the Conservation Commission.
That's correct.
You have 2 alternatives, as John cited, for the garage, though,
there's, what
because
covers
that's
that
within
back
our
corner?
jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's the jurisdiction.
I will say this, though, that there is I've often heard over the last 26 years, town officials say that you can't get a permit from one department if you're in violation of a permit from another department. I have heard that, but there's been no communication from us. So we know nothing about your building permit for the house.
Okay. In short, if this can be included, to do the siding, replace the roof, and garage doors.
Oh, you have to give us a plan for it. That's not something, I mean, we have to have a document that shows exactly what you're doing, what the plan is, where your equipment's going. If you bring, equipment in there and you've got hydraulic equipment, whether it's a bulldozer or a boom truck or anything like that, you can't store it, you can't, refuel it within our jurisdiction, you can't store it overnight within our jurisdiction. These are basic, we call them boilerplate conditions.
I'm not talking about a bulldozer, I'm talking about just siding, roof, and
I'm
garage
talking about
doors.
equipment. I'm talking about equipment. You need to have a plan. You have to show us what you're doing.
Because again, the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission.
It's about a third of the garage, but yeah, a third of it definitely is.
and if this is all you're doing, it won't take long at all. We'll look over the plan. If it's an improvement and it doesn't impact a drainage area in the back, we'll look at it and same time, say, okay, that looks good, it's an improvement, you're fixing something. So, I mean,
So
we're not
submitted
holding you
new-
up for months or
It's-
anything, we're
Yeah,
not.
there's a application process.
Right.
That's,
You would suggest a request for determination? Is that the format that you're
Yes,
comfortable
that's-
with?
I would
That's the
agree with that.
fastest,
Fastest and.
cheaper, and we can condition,
Yes.
the approval.
Exactly.
Okay.
yeah, so we
But
can
just give
approve
us
just the work on the garage. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
and, whether all this other stuff happened or not, that's, you would technically have to file the RDA regardless. So this isn't something that we're adding on in addition to everything else. This would be a standard requirement,
I'm with you.
so.
It's the least work to go through that process.
Got it.
Yeah, you don't have to file that with the state, right? And
That's correct.
Yeah. It'd also be the fastest.
yes.
But under the town bylaw, an RDA requires notification of the butters.
Right. That's an important point.
And for us to provide you with confirmation that we have done that notice, you like to have
Cards.
green cards?
Or the white certificates from the green cards,
Right.
at least.
Like you got from Lucian
Yes.
for the notice. Okay. I guess I don't have any further comments, except to say that we did file for an order. You have spoken about amending an enforcement order. I wonder if it matters in the end which it is when it comes time to get a certificate of compliance, which will be needed when you find that the work is performed correctly, right?
Well, there are two things at issue. One is the enforcement orders, and the
Yes.
second one is the notice of intent.
Yeah, well, I submitted a notice of intent, and somebody said, I forget who, well, we're not going to issue order right now, we're going to add conditions to the enforcement order.
Which we can do.
Yes, yeah, I'm
You
just
said
saying.
that on site, John.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I'm not backing off that. We
Yeah.
can do both.
Exactly.
Well, I feel
Yeah.
very strongly that we have.
Yes.
you know,
Okay, so just
Well-
be aware.
Right, so, does it make any difference when this is all said and done with, and you are satisfied with the work? We can still get a certificate, right, even though we're technically working under an enforcement order?
When we have to do two things. We have to
Yeah.
issue the order of conditions. We have to close the enforcement order. We haven't
Yes,
closed that.
okay.
Six.
But there's
Okay.
still
Right.
we're going back to violations of our enforcement order.
Yes. Yeah, so the work that will satisfy both of the documents, I think, at that point, you would lift the enforcement order if you're satisfied with the work?
We'd consider a fine,
Yes.
as
okay.
we've done, we've had a consistent
Yes.
precedent for
Right.
doing that.
Yeah, I understand. I think the enforcement order is still in force.
Yeah.
And I think with these conditions, we're trying to address it. All I'm saying is that at the end of everything, when all the work is done and it's to your satisfaction, we will need a certificate of compliance. So I guess my thought was, is the enforcement order preventing the notice of intent from being part of a documentary sequence that will lead to a certificate? Oh,
The answer is
okay.
no.
Okay,
There are
okay.
two parallel
okay.
tracks,
All right, I got you.
independent parallel.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
You know that.
Right, if we do the work correctly, right, and you're satisfied with it, that's what we would like to do.
That's the means to the end.
Yes, yeah.
In keeping with that, I just keep in mind that as you remove that fill, You're gonna wanna bring in some decent soil, like a couple of inches of good loam or something. So you have to remove enough that then when you add the 2 inches or 3 inches of good decent compost soil that you can plant in, that you're at the level that we're looking for, so.
Yeah, I
Keep that in
did,
mind, you're not gonna put that on top of the level that's required.
I did talk to a landscape architect about the nature of the fill, how tight it was. And he said, instead of putting the loam directly on top of it, you would probably do better to rototill it or break it up somewhat.
I agree.
Yeah, and then,
Otherwise, it will just wash off the
yes,
top.
right, it would be such, so
Yep.
that should, I think, make it be a reasonable part of the job.
Mix the loom in with the existing base.
And then finally, you'll have a beautiful backyard that you can be proud of.
Without a swimming pool.
Lucian brought a picture of the swimming pool. It was pretty ugly. It really looked like it had floated in from nose floaters. Well, what will happen now, the conditions will be finalized by you, Steve, is that correct?
Right, well, I think that we can actually move on this, because we don't, and you made the point, and I think we talked about it at the site, we don't want to delay this, because we need to get that fill away from the trees.
Yeah,
so
I
they can
agree.
breathe.
Yeah.
So I think that, these form, and when I say these conditions that Steve put down on paper are sufficient to support an order of conditions. And I don't.
And as well as the enforcement order. You're saying order of conditions.
To move forward.
Yes.
Right, and it would be part of it. Again, we're parallel tracking, they're going together, and we have to see what happens at the end of the.
Sure, so we can
of the
add these,
rainbow.
we can add these to the standard conditions, the boilerplate of the order of conditions, is what
Add
you're
these,
saying.
yes, that's correct, but I'm looking at an email, and it's from you, Tom, and it says, if the commission prefers that the ditch be mapped as a stream, which we do, and that areas along its banks be mapped as BBW, I'm willing to amend the plans accordingly. I would like to see that based upon, Steve, your view of where the wetland line should be. And if that's mapped accordingly, it doesn't matter jurisdictionally, because we've got jurisdiction anyway. But I would like to have that plan included, and then have the conditions listed in the email, except for number 11, but the 10 that I read, included as an order of conditions to move forward with this project. Does that make sense, to get it moving?
Absolutely.
So unless, you have any objection to moving forward, I think we need to move quickly for the health of the trees.
That's right. I think we are in substantial agreement about, I don't really see any further areas of disagreement.
I think we're there.
Yeah.
All right, any comments from abutters or members of the public? There's nobody there, but I have to say that. Hearing none, is there a motion to issue an order of conditions for the notice of intent filed by the applicant with the conditions 1 through 10 listed here, with the 2 amendments, 1 and 6, which will now state pre-removal conference on site with applicant, contractor, and conservation agent. And an amendment to number 7, which will state on-site applicants, environmental consultants, while fill removal is taking place. We added the word applicants. With those 2 adjustments, you can add those as conditions with our usual boilerplate, which is to not store equipment overnight, and not to refuel equipment within a jurisdictional area. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Good.
All right, so you get an order of conditions to move forward.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Who's second?
Thank you.
Arthur.
Thank you.
How soon?
Lucian asks,
I have to wait to receive this?
how soon to get the order?
We're going to sign it tonight, so it has to be copied, so you can probably pick it up tomorrow, but there's a 10-day appeal period. I don't think anybody's going to appeal it, but
Right.
you actually proceed at your own risk if you do it before the 10 days goes by.
What are the repercussions for starting on
You'd
Saturday?
have to undo it, but who would appeal?
Yeah.
Who would appeal it?
The chances
It's-
are the
it's-
same as you winning the lottery.
Unless you have a neighbor that really doesn't like it, that knows about wetland stuff.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Take care. Thanks, Tom, appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Lucian
Good night.
and Gina.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
Tia, thank you very kindly.
Good night.
Yep.
Good night. Number 10 on the agenda is amendment order conditions 94 Parkwood Drive.
I spoke to the gentleman. He is not able to come again this evening. He would like to be put off till August, our August meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
And I did check the growth of the grass vegetation. It has not reached 75%
okay,
for
still,
that site. That's correct. Okay, those two things.
wow. There is a lot of clay on Parkwood Drive.
Yes.
That's where we ran into a problem.
I'm not
with-
surprised.
With one of our septic systems.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's continued till August. Next one is certificate of compliance, 333 Hillside Street. Give an update on,
Mr. Burke told me recently that he has not heard from his client, and his client should hear from him soon.
That's
And
fair
that was
enough.
it. And I said, thank you, Mr. Burke.
okay, so why don't we put that on for August?
Yes.
Can you just stay in touch with Jim Burke?
I plan to, and for one of the, number 13, I plan to. So we'll talk about number 12 and 13 next.
Okay. 12 is 1421 Canton Avenue.
No response. Kathy and I have, spent a lot of time and energy, and there's been very little, no response at all.
Okay, this is gone beyond reason.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, yeah.
So what are our options at the present time,
You
John?
oppose a fine,
Yeah,
and I
Yes.
think we should.
Let's do it.
So,
Now, the fine is up to $300 a day, but the reality of it is, we've had how many months? How long ago was that video?
I believe it was in March, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we've been there more than that. Could it have been
And-
earlier than that?
Could have been earlier, yes.
Because it's been on the
File,
agenda.
you could take a look in the file. I don't have the file in front of
So at
me.
least 4 months, at least
At least-
120 days,
Yes,
at least.
yes, that's correct.
what if we were to say something like, unless there's an appearance before the August meeting, fine will commence.
so it's $36,000.
What did you say?
So at $300 a day, that's what,
It's on a go-forward
Forward basis.
basis.
I like that approach. Warning,
Correct.
and then saying, show up at August, or send a representative, and then finds, if you're not there,
So this is a letter to be sent to them?
yes.
And the enforcement order is
Specifying
recorded.
when it began, the enforcement order, that on such and such date, what date was it, John?
This is, I'm reading an email. Please accept this email as notification that the residents of the above listed address have a long-standing habit of piling leaves. That's the objection, so it goes back before that.
What's the date on that?
That's March 7th, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Wednesday, March 2nd. This is John Thompson, the town engineer, writes on Wednesday, March 7th to Kathleen Bowen. Kathy, I visited 1421 Canton Avenue today at your request and found 3 young individuals working for the homeowner. They said they were hired to clean an area for a fence. I told them to stop all work and have the homeowner call you. I snapped the attached photos. I did witness the individual with the wheelbarrow dumping debris, rocks and loose soil on the banks of the stream. It looked relatively minor, should be evident in the photo, and attaches the photo. Wow.
Yep.
That's
Remember
not
that well.
minor.
yeah.
Wow. And that's March 7th.
So that's the
We
beginning.
then visited, it
Well,
says,
when did we sign the enforcement order? Didn't, Or sometimes Kathy signs it. Who actually signed the enforcement order? What was that date?
March 1st, 2018. From the Town of Milton Conservation Commission to Mr. and Mrs. Martin. Enclosed is an enforcement order issued by the Milton Conservation Commission. Please be advised that the Milton Conservation Commission requests that you attend the next meeting on Tuesday, March 20th
So the,
at 7:30 PM.
it's 132 days since the enforcement order was issued.
So I think we say, please be advised, beginning on this day,
March first.
you were informed of the fact that you were in violation as a result of direct evidence of dumping into the stream, and you have not responded, and as a result, we have authority to fine you at a certain rate if you do not show up.
At the August meeting. And I'd send a certified or registered mail.
Good idea, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the enforcement order should be recorded in the Registry of Deeds.
Well, that would be a nice little thing to add then, be aware of the fact that this enforcement order, having been recorded, will be encumbrance on your,
On your
a
file.
lien on your property, basically.
Right, there's documentation here from March, this is the 16th of March, indicating the,
Continued,
wow.
yeah.
This doesn't happen very often, I mean,
No.
15 years I've been here.
Steve Ivas, it says you met with Dina Martin on March 12th at 14:21 as a result of the enforcement order issued on the 1st of March 2018. It also includes recommendations for remedial work on the site.
Oh, yes.
So you state your observations and the recommendations.
One of my first memo.
And then they were,
First official memo to the commission.
and then we did a site walk on April 7th
Yeah.
on site,
And they,
and they were invited to the
the
Yeah,
homeowner's
the-
mother, I believe, was.
She was there when we were there, that's correct. And they've been invited to the Conservation Commission meeting on,
Every month since.
yes. Here's one, March 1st, in addition to issuing that, they were invited to the March meeting. At the next meeting was March 20th, 2018. That letter went out the 1st of March and invited them to the meeting on the 20th. They were invited, I think, at every meeting since then. I've got a letter here inviting us to the May 15th.
So this is five different meetings, they have not
Yeah.
appeared. Maybe the word invite was too nice.
Right.
Are required to appear.
Yes. I agree. So, why don't we have a letter go out and signed either by the agent or I'll sign it as chairman or whatever, and saying that, assuming we take a vote to do this, that their failure to show up, they're required to attend the August meeting. If they fail to attend, we voted to impose a fine of $300 per day for the violation of filling the brook on the day commencing, the day following
Correct.
the commission's meeting, which is what, August 14th?
Yes.
All right, is that acceptable? Well,
I
we
think
have
so,
to then,
yeah.
we have to take it as a motion and then vote on that to impose the fine, to command their presence.
So moved.
Okay.
I got most of it.
You got it?
I got-
Yeah.
John, I think the letter should come from your signature as
Sure,
chair
that's
of the,
fine.
yeah.
I would agree with that,
I'll sign it.
yes.
All right, so is there a motion to command their presence at the August 14th meeting, and their failure to do so will result in a fine of $300 per day, and that the enforcement order has been filed with, and the fine will be recorded in the Registry of Deeds? Did both of those?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? All in favor? Good, all right, thanks. That is.
I just don't recall another instance of someone completely ignoring us for 5 months. I really don't. A little outrageous.
Like poking a stick in your eye.
I'm beginning to feel similarly about agenda
123.
item number 13.
123 Granite Avenue.
Well, I have a recent email from Mr. Jim DeSell, the younger,
Good.
and I'd like to read 3 paragraphs to you. Just got it tonight, okay, it was just sent
Very timely.
today at 2:40 in the afternoon, okay? Steve, attached is the preliminary plan of the cabana, patio, and trailer behind the Legion post. I have been dealing with attorney Dick Pastor, the commander for the post, and missed an email telling me to proceed. As you can see, the covered patio and fence is over the property line. And, exactly.
Dope.
So we can stop there for a few seconds and say, oops. Yeah, Jim Burke told me today it was off locus. That's the word, off locus. Okay, I said, oh, really?
That's a very Jim Burke term.
Yes, it is, exactly. Okay, and within the 25-foot no disturb line of the previously approved BVW. We proposed to completely remove these structures. We plan on requesting the trailer and cabana be allowed to remain, final location of the trailer to be determined, okay? So then he goes on and says, do you know if we can use the previously determined BVW as it appears to be in the same location? I will be finalizing the information with the post and plan to file in the next few weeks unless you feel we need to have the botanist reflag the wetlands. And I said, we are not allowed to, I responded and said, we are not allowed to have wetlands that are more than 3 years old, flagging that is more than 3 years old, via the regulations, state regulations. That was my response to him. So
An appropriate response.
thank you. I also,
Whose property?
this is.
DCR.
DCR, yes, yes. Jim Burke also said, again, secondhand, so I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a quote-unquote upcoming agreement with another buyer for a portion of the property,
Correct.
and that has fallen through. I'm not surprised, but that's just, again, secondhand, it's not official.
I don't think it has any bearing really on this.
It does not have any bearing, I
No.
don't think, on
I
what,
think that was the bus line.
right.
Steve, how many acres is this property? I'm just curious.
Good question. Let me see.
It's sizable.
Yeah.
It is sizable, and I can maybe go back to the plan that I
Especially if you include the adverse possession.
It extends
But it hasn't been more than 20 years.
well down towards
So
the
I'm looking at the plan on my
boatyard.
phone.
There's a piece of land between it and the boatyard
Well,
that's owned by
the highway,
resident.
Mass Highway owns a piece in it too.
Yeah.
DCR's got a piece of it. and
I didn't mean the
Mass Highway
boatyard, I meant the
The
DPW, the
DPW,
state.
yeah.
Mass
DOT,
Highway,
Mass Highway.
yeah.
Between the end of the VFW land and the beginning of the state property.
On
There's-
the westerly side, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I can show it to you, I'm
There's a
very
piece-
sorry.
It's a piece of land owned by somebody in Milton that is part of the original railway right-of-way.
Yeah, and here it is, that, I believe that piece of land is right in here. This is the parking lot, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, there's the post,
Post.
there's the line, the boundary line, which is.
Most of the pavilions on the other side.
Exactly, they're really over. More than half.
How's that for a setback?
They built it, they should have turned it the other way.
That's right, it would have been perfect. They missed it by more than 50% of the.
Wow. What's the boundary among friends?
Right. In any case.
At one time,
I'm
the
sorry.
Department of Transportation land was going to be transferred to Milton, wasn't it? For,
They were talking about a land swap.
yeah, something like that, yeah. in that area. So what did we come up with, a couple of acres for the
I'm sorry,
American Legion post?
I can't see, but it's
Okay.
over a couple of acres.
It's over there,
Yeah,
okay.
it's probably 5 acres plus, but I really just can't see the plan. I'm not sure if it even says that on the, oh, wait, here we are. Would you divide 127,949? 127,949 by 43,560? And that'll tell us the number of acres on that lot.
35, 3, 4, 60.
0.9?
Would you like the numbers again?
Yeah.
127,949 divided by 43,560. I could do it here.
2.9.
Okay, there we go.
What is it, Hans?
That's what I said.
3 acres.
3 acres.
Yep. That's what they own. Now, this is just, that's one block.
And they say they're trying to sell it?
They wanted to sell a part of it
I don't know.
to raise money to refurbish the hall.
So do you have any sense, Steve, that they're going to actually submit? Because at the sidewalk, they said they would submit a notice of intent.
That's why I called Mr. Pasteur and left a message and never heard a call back. He's
Do you
the
think he's
attorney.
been retained? Because Ned Cochran was there.
He was
at the sidewalk.
representing the other
He was
party.
representing the other party, and Mr. Pasteur was representing the
Oh, they were both
Post.
there, okay.
Yeah.
That's the one I had to leave for,
Yes,
okay.
that's correct. Yep,
Okay.
yep, they were both there. And never returned a call, never returned an email or anything like that. So he may be out of the picture for the Post, and I guess we've got to call the Post.
We've got to send a letter to them as well,
Okay.
maybe
Yep.
commanding their presence at the August 14th meeting as well.
Have to bring the foam finger.
So the what?
The big foam finger.
Sure.
I would possibly say in that letter, unlike the previous letter, that unless there's resolution within a reasonable period of time, then they would be subject to fine.
Yes, right.
Would that be fair?
Yes, I think so. I don't think that we're at the same stage with
No.
them
Agreed.
that we are with,
In this way,
Canton Avenue.
we give them a heads up,
Yeah.
so they can't say to us later on, well, you never told us.
Right,
Because you know that's gonna be line number 1.
true. True enough.
You hear it all the time, I'm sure.
You didn't know it was your property.
It's not, it's the state's.
Oh, boy.
Hey, they'll never know.
And that's, you know, that was
Except,
a lot
except
of-
for the NOI that they have to file, which includes a
with the
butters.
state.
Right, that's right. Well, they've got to file an NOI to remove it as
Yes.
well. We should let them know that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
they
the
do
work.
have to file an NOI to remove. And there's a lot of concrete they've got to break up there.
Yeah, and we don't want them putting it in the back with the rest of the concrete.
So that means
That's
they
it.
didn't have a building permit either.
That's right.
No likelihood.
No.
Okay.
Dope.
All right, so we got 2 letters to draft.
Right.
All right, any additional business?
Yes, one piece of additional business, I did fill out, I don't know if you got a copy over email or not, but a cost share application for the forestry stewardship program. And so it was a very simple fill, and I need to figure out how to do a W-9 from the town, but otherwise, if, John, you could sign that, that would be, we could start that whole process.
This is
You-
for Pope's Pond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
You
I-
missed,
missed that.
the forester coming in last month, and
I did.
giving us a good,
I did as well.
yes, he gave us a very good presentation.
Steve, I'm totally in favor of this. I think it's a great idea. My question is, Turner's Pond, which is used about 10 times more than
Yes.
Pope's Pond is equally in need of the trees being assessed and protected and getting some assistance. The trees are in deplorable condition.
I was going to
So-
ask you about that. Do you
Yeah.
know if do we own 25 acres, though, around Turner's Pond? I should have
Can you
just,
include the surface of the pond?
I don't know, to answer the question.
Most of the time you can,
Oh, really?
yeah, but
Because my thought would be if we're going forward with this, we should add Turner's Pond to it, or do it
Absolutely, yes.
concurrently or
I
something.
was thinking about that
That
tonight,
does
I was
need
driving
improvement.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, oh, the trees, you know, they're being pulled down by porcelana vine and oriental
Oh, yes,
bittersweet.
oh,
It's
yeah, the
awful.
vines are crazy over
Terrible.
there. Yes, I would agree with that entirely.
I'd say 3 trees out of 4 are in terrible shape
Yeah.
there, you know.
There's a tree that just came down there.
Was
Is that
that
right?
so?
A big willow partially came down right by the parking area. It just.
this has a dramatic effect upon the
Black
quality of
willows?
the water as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's right.
Temperature of the water, what feeds in there, the whole life cycle ecosystem is
Sure.
affected by
Uh-huh,
the shade,
uh-huh.
et cetera.
And of course, Pine Tree Brook goes from one to the other, basically.
Yes,
So it's almost
yes.
one ecosystem.
That's right, that's right. I'll be happy to fill it out for Turner's Pond as well.
Oh, good, okay.
Okay? I can
If funds
scan
are
it,
available or whatever,
I can send it
assistant
to
advice.
John via email, and he can sign it and just scan it in. I'm sure he has the
Oh, the
ability.
180 trees they
Yeah.
decided earlier tonight. The number for planting in Turner's
But
Pond.
Eversource, they can't afford
With
things.
great variation of the trees. That's one of the other things that
Yeah.
really needs to be done, because oftentimes they're the same variety or limited number of varieties. And that doesn't do much ecologically.
Over at the Naval Air Station, what they're doing, the landscaping for the new recreational facility, it's 25 acres, and it's got 4 playing fields on it. They're putting in sweet gum trees. Sweet gums aren't native to this area. They've got sweet gums along one of the roadways, and they're the ones that are most stressed. They've got 48 sweet gum trees with, they were dug by the machine. And their bowls are this big around at least. They're 6-foot diameter bowls.
So what, 6-inch?
At least 6-inch caliper, something
Yeah.
like on that order. And it's just, I said to them, these trees aren't gonna survive.
Yeah.
And they're messy trees.
Why would they bring in non-native?
Landscape architects
From a different.
With a deal.
have a aesthetic.
Let's look beyond.
So we have a number of orders and things to sign tonight, so I'd like to go through those. I don't have any additional business.
Then, with no other additional business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.
Indeed.
Thank you.